Hey Mary, sorry to bug you at work. What's up? I couldn't catch you yesterday because you were pretty elusive, so I thought I'd track you down. Nicole pointed you out to me. You probably already know, but I'm seeing John. I'm Mary, 35, a nurse at the biggest hospital around. Mom of 2 boys, ages 3 and 5, and John's my hubby. He's 5 years my senior and works as a doc at a nearby clinic. He used to be at the hospital, but with the kids, he switched to a clinic with no night shifts. I could easily lay off work with John's job, but house chores don't quite suit me, so here I am, juggling nursing and parenting. Crazy, right? Up early, sorting lunches, breakfast, laundry, dropping kids off, and then off to work. But hey, I prefer it this way. John, on the flip side, strolls into the clinic at 9, so he's a late riser. By the time he's up, we're out the door. He wraps up his clinic duties and heads home around 9 in the evening. By then, I'm beat, having handled dinners, baths, bedtime routines, you name it. But I still manage to whip up dinner for John. Not that I mind really. He's not much help around the house, but it's better that way. If he tried, I'd probably redo everything. Thanks for dinner, Mary. It was delicious as always. He always says that, and it warms my heart. How about a trip to the zoo this Sunday? Sounds fantastic. The kids will be thrilled. On his days off, he takes them out, being the cool dad. At the zoo last Sunday, the kids were ecstatic, running around like mad. Seeing them happy makes me happy. That's what it's all about, right? Here you go, Mary. Huh? He hands me a cute cell phone charm with a blue penguin on it. It matches the one on his phone. Then he shows me his phone, and there it is, the matching charm. I blushed a bit, feeling like we were back in high school, but it warmed my heart nonetheless. Thanks. It's a tad embarrassing, but I'm happy, I replied. You know, penguins are pretty loyal creatures. Some spend their whole lives with the same partner, John remarked, making me chuckle. I couldn't help but think perhaps we'd be like those penguins, sticking together through thick and thin, but who knows what the future holds. One day, I managed to leave work on time and rushed out of the hospital's bike parking lot, headed for the daycare. Are you Mary? An unfamiliar young woman approached me. Yes, that's me, I confirmed, curious. She introduced herself as Nicole, expressing her gratitude for John's support. Her sudden appearance caught me off guard. She was strikingly beautiful with long hair, not someone I knew well. Are you here for a checkup today? I asked, puzzled. No. Just passing by. Sorry if I startled you, Nicole explained before leaving. Her presence left me uneasy. What could she possibly want in the bike parking lot, meant only for hospital staff? That evening, I asked John about Nicole's visit. A woman named Nicole greeted you today at the hospital. Who is she? I inquired. Huh. She's a nurse at my clinic. I'll ask her next time, John replied, seeming surprised. His eagerness to end the conversation left me feeling distrustful. I encountered Nicole again about 2 weeks later, this time outside our house. It was when the daycare called, informing me that our eldest son had a fever and needed to be picked up. As I biked home with the kids, I spotted a figure waiting in front of our house. I immediately hit the brakes, pulling my bike to the side of the road. Though they were a bit distant, I could unmistakably recognize John and Nicole. I dialed John's number just to confirm. Hey Mary, what's up? I'm pretty swamped at work right now, he answered, even though he was clearly standing in front of our house. I'm sorry, our eldest son has a fever, so I'm heading home. Thought I'd let you know, I explained. Got it. I'll try to wrap up early today, he replied before hanging up. The 2 figures in front of our house then headed toward the clinic. I waited for a while before heading home. Luckily, despite the fever, my son seemed to be in good spirits, so there wasn't much cause for concern. But as they say, it's better to be vigilant. After ensuring he was settled with his favorite cartoon and some snacks, I took a moment to collect myself. The image of John and Nicole kept haunting me. I didn't want to entertain doubts, yet the suspicion of infidelity crept in, and I found myself gripping the penguin charm on my cell phone, as if seeking reassurance. In the evening, as promised, John rushed home and showed genuine concern for our son. He was such a devoted family man. Surely he couldn't be having an affair. At least, that's what I desperately wanted to believe. Mary, is something wrong? Did you notice something when you came home this afternoon? John asked, his demeanor uneasy. No, nothing. It just seemed like the chair was in a different position, I replied, feeling my suspicions growing stronger in the face of John's evident discomfort. I thought maybe you came home for lunch. No, I didn't come home. Maybe it's just your imagination, John chuckled, quickly diverting his attention to the newspaper. Just my imagination, huh? I let it slide for the moment but went to bed with an uneasy feeling, our conversation lingering in the air. The next day, our son's fever had subsided, so I dropped him off at daycare and returned to work. While busy at my job, the head nurse informed me of a visitor. Wondering who it could be, I headed to the designated lobby and found Nicole waiting there. Hello, Mary. Sorry for interrupting you at work, she greeted me. What can I do for you? I saw you hiding yesterday and thought I should say hi, so here I am, Nicole explained. I noticed her change in tone from our first meeting, now irritatingly flirtatious. Despite clearly being over 20, the way she spoke in public was rather off-putting. John doesn't like older women like you. He said he prefers young girls like me, so I was thinking it's probably best if you step aside. You get what I'm saying, right? Not really, I replied, puzzled. John and I are dating. You get it now. Look, here's the evidence, Nicole declared, opening her smartphone to show me a picture of them together in a hotel room, both wearing robes and looking content. Was his recent business trip a lie? Seeing my stern expression, Nicole smirked with satisfaction. Now you get it, right? Hurry up and get a divorce, old lady. Having said what she came to say, she cheerfully left the hospital, seemingly content with herself. I felt as though a decision was being pushed upon me, yet I had already resolved myself to it. There was no room for doubt. It was merely a matter of the moment arriving sooner than expected. Taking swift action, I informed the head nurse that I was feeling unwell and left work early, also requesting leave for the following day. Though she seemed puzzled by my sudden uplifted spirits, I managed to secure her approval and promptly headed towards my destination. The confrontation was set for tomorrow. The next day, I found myself seated in the director's office of the clinic where John worked, with my father, who also happened to be the director, sitting across from me. He scrutinized the photos and documents I had laid out on the desk, his expression grave. Yes, from the moment I first met Nicole, I had enlisted the services of a detective agency to investigate John's infidelity, aiming to dispel the unease I had been feeling. Fortunately, I had the means to do so. Regardless of the outcome, I viewed it as an investment in securing a positive future for my family and had commissioned a month-long investigation. Despite Nicole's limited contact, the evidence gathered over the past 2 weeks was damning. It revealed that she had accompanied John on his recent business trip, sharing the same room. Furthermore, even in their daily lives, they spent considerable time together. They had been meeting almost every day during the breaks between John's consultations, even at our own home. My father's expression soured, but he lifted his gaze with a determined look. Mary, what do you want to do? Consider the children and weigh your decision carefully, he urged. I'm filing for divorce, I replied resolutely. I empathized with my father's plight, but my resolve remained unshaken. As I delivered my decision, he sighed, asking for a moment before dialing John's extension on the internal phone. After a brief interval, John, oblivious to the situation, entered with a smile upon seeing me. Mary, you're here. Are you off work today? His smile faded as he noticed the spread of photos on the table, his face draining of color with each passing second. What is this? He stammered, his eyes fixed on the incriminating evidence before him. John, you've been having an affair with Nicole. With this much evidence, denial isn't an option. We're getting a divorce? I stated firmly. A divorce? Why? This was just a fling. What I value is you and our family, John protested, his voice tinged with desperation. Nicole came to disrupt my work, claiming you weren't interested in older women like me, I countered. That's not true. You're beautiful and you're not old, John interjected, bewildered. My father promptly called for Nicole, startling her. Doctor, you call for me. Nicole entered, visibly pleased to be personally summoned by the director, though her expression faltered upon noticing the tense atmosphere. Nicole, could you explain these pictures? My father inquired, gesturing towards the evidence on the table. Nicole's brows furrowed momentarily before she composed herself, wearing a smug smirk. I apologize, doctor. John and I are dating. Of course, I know about Mary, but I could support him as a housewife. This way, he can concentrate on his work and be a devoted father, Nicole declared confidently, seemingly mistaking my father for John's own. John, visibly shaken, appeared at a loss for words while my father turned to me with a solemn inquiry. Mary, have you decided to break up with John? I'll ensure you're compensated and will take good care of the children, so please don't worry. I couldn't help but chuckle at Nicole's dramatic speech, though she didn't seem amused. Instead, she appeared slightly irritated. It's not severance pay, it's alimony. And since I'll be the one raising the kids, I'll need child support from John, I clarified matter-of-factly. Well, that can't be helped, but I'm glad you agreed to the divorce. Now I can be with John, Nicole continued, seemingly on a roll. Stop it, John muttered under his breath, but Nicole, caught up in her momentum, didn't seem to hear him. Well then, as soon as you're ready, could you leave the house? Nicole's words were abruptly halted as John grabbed her shoulder to silence her. Her surprised gaze met his, and John spoke up. Nicole, I'm sorry, it was just a fling. My family is important to me, and I can't be with you, he confessed, causing color to drain from Nicole's face. Why? You told me you were divorcing her to marry me. You said you'd make me the wife of the future director, and I believed you. I don't understand, Nicole protested, her confusion evident. You told me you're not into older women like her. You said how lonely you are with her always at work and not at home, she continued, her tone pleading. It felt like I was witnessing a messy breakup unfolding before my eyes, and my impatience began to grow. That's enough. I'm filing for divorce from John. I'll be seeking alimony from both of you, and John, you'll need to pay child support too. That's all, I declared, attempting to conclude the conversation. My father, understanding my temperament, chuckled and interjected, well, since my daughter said her piece. Wait, did you just say your daughter? John interrupted, visibly stunned. Yes, Mary is my child and John is my son-in-law, my father clarified, causing Nicole to panic. What happens if he's no longer the heir? Can't he live in that big house anymore? Nicole panicked, realizing the implications. Mary, I'm truly sorry. John suddenly fell to his knees, bowing deeply to me. Nicole, now realizing she was nothing more than a fling, was left stunned. I can't ask for your forgiveness, but could you possibly give me another chance? John's desperate bowing likely stemmed from the fear of losing his job. However, no matter how deeply he bowed, I couldn't find it in me to forgive him. Besides the affair, there was another reason why forgiving John was impossible for me. That's impossible. Do you recognize this? I pulled out my cell phone and showed him the blue penguin charm. John's face paled, confirming his guilt. Yesterday, when John showed me the photo at the hospital, I had been elated. We had matching charms, and he had shared with me the significance of penguins mating for life. I cherished the blue penguin charm he had given me, but now I noticed something crucial. Nicole also had the light blue charm on her phone. Yes, Nicole confirmed. John bought it for me. Admitting defeat, John confessed to buying it. That's why it's impossible. We should break up. Nicole has the exact same one, not just a different color. That tells me enough about your feelings. I can't forgive you, no matter what. Please, Mary, John pleaded, but my father intervened, expressing his outrage at John's betrayal and Nicole's disruption of clinic discipline. As a clinic director, I must punish both of you, my father declared. Be prepared for that. I'm so sorry, but please let me keep my job, John pleaded. We'll go through lawyers from now on. You both can leave for today, and from tomorrow, you'll be on paid leave. You don't have to come to work. Wait, I don't understand, I interjected. John, you're a doctor. Can't you work elsewhere? Quit this small clinic and let's start over. Please, Nicole, let's break up, John added. I never imagined losing my family or happiness. Are you freaking serious? You deceived me. I lashed out, my father intervening to silence the bickering between John and Nicole. Despite John's past insistence that family was paramount, his actions have betrayed us. The thought of returning to the house where John and Nicole had apparently spent every day together filled me with dread. So, I requested to stay with my parents for a while, taking my children with me. Arriving at their house, a sense of relief washed over me. Exhaustion consumed me, and I fell into a deep sleep, only to awaken in pitch darkness. Startled, I checked the clock, realizing it was midnight. My cell phone was illuminated with numerous missed calls and text messages from John. I couldn't bear to hear his voice, so I read through his apologies and excuses for the affair. Among them, I found a plea for my father's intervention, claiming remorse. A cynical laugh escaped me. It seemed John's remorse was more about securing his position at the clinic. Fury and pity overwhelmed me, leading me to forcefully tear off the penguin charm from my cell phone and discard it. A wave of sadness engulfed me, tears flowing freely even in the dead of night. My mother, awakened by my sobs, offered her comforting presence, staying by my side throughout the night. Family's warmth enveloped me, and as I yearned to build a family like this, my tears continued to flow. The next morning, I awoke feeling lighter. Though my mother expressed concern, I've always been one to bounce back quickly. I had completely cut off all emotional ties with John. That very day, I met with a lawyer introduced by my father and swiftly arranged for alimony and child support. I left the rest to the lawyer and resumed my daily life. It took longer than expected, but eventually the lawyer informed me that the divorce was finalized. John had put up a fight, unwilling to let go of both the marriage and the clinic. However, he eventually agreed to a settlement after realizing he had little chance of winning in court. Once the divorce was finalized, Nicole and her parents discovered the news and pressured John into marrying her, citing our child. I had demanded substantial alimony, and John was left with almost no money after paying the lump sum for child support. Nicole was furious at the turn of events, neglecting housework, which led to constant arguments between them. The lawyer kept me informed of these developments. Moreover, although my father now ran a small clinic, he had a vast network from his previous role as a department head at a large hospital. News of John's situation spread quickly in the area, making it challenging for him to find employment as a doctor elsewhere. Whether he would leave town or find a different job was of little concern to me now. My father decided to rent out our former house to someone he knew, respecting my desire not to return there. I resolved to build a new home for my family of 3 with my own finances. Until then, I planned to stay at my parents' house to care for my children. Despite my young age, I jokingly mentioned to my parents that I wondered if there might be someone else out there for me. They laughed, teasing me about my impatience.
The bass thrums through the soles of my feet as I stand at the edge of the rooftop bar, 30 stories above Manhattan. Everyone around me sparkles, literally sparkles, in sequins and metallic dresses that catch the light like scattered stars. I'm wearing the black dress Nicole picked out for me, because of course I am. She's always known what's best for me, hasn't she? Mia. Nicole's voice carries across the crowd, musical and commanding as always. She's waving a champagne bottle, her smile brilliant enough to rival the city lights behind her. Birthday girl, get over here. I weave through the crowd, accepting hugs and birthday wishes from faces I mostly recognize from Nicole's Instagram stories. The party is exactly what she promised. Exclusive, expensive, and engineered for maximum social media impact. Just like everything else in Nicole's orbit. You look absolutely gorgeous, she gushes, pulling me into a perfumed embrace. I knew that dress would be perfect on you. Didn't I tell you? You always know, I say, and mean it. For 10 years, Nicole has been my compass, my confidant, my sister in everything but blood. The person who took awkward, uncertain Mia and helped transform her into someone who could almost belong in places like this. Edison appears at my elbow, offering a knowing smile and a fresh glass of champagne. Happy birthday, he says quietly, his steady presence a counterweight to Nicole's sparkle. Holding up okay? Before I can answer, Nicole sweeps me away for photos. The lighting is perfect right now, she insists, positioning me against the cityscape. I smile on command, letting her adjust my pose like a photographer with their favorite prop. The night blurs into a carousel of toasts and laughter and carefully curated moments. I'm floating on champagne bubbles when I excuse myself to the bathroom, weaving through the crowd toward the interior of the venue. That's when I hear it. Can't believe she's 30. Nicole's voice, slightly slurred but still carrying that familiar musical lilt. God, remember when we met her? So desperate to belong somewhere? I freeze, one hand on the bathroom door. The voices are coming from around the corner, just out of sight. She's sweet, though. Another voice. Pearl, I think. You two are like sisters. Nicole's laugh is sharp enough to cut. Please, she'll never be more than my sidekick. I mean, look at her, still wearing the clothes I pick out, still following my lead. It's kind of sad, really. Like having a permanent intern who never graduates. The words hit like ice water, shocking me sober. My chest constricts as a decade of memories suddenly shift, kaleidoscope-like, into new and horrible patterns. That's harsh, Pearl says, but she's laughing too. It's true, though. I love her, but come on. Some people are meant to be supporting characters. At least she's good at it. I back away from the bathroom, my heels suddenly unsteady beneath me. The party lights seem too bright now, harsh and exposing. Every smile directed my way feels like pity. Every laugh sounds like mockery. My phone buzzes, a text from Edison. You okay? You look pale. I scan the crowd and find him watching me with concern. Beyond him, Nicole has returned to holding court, champagne in hand, radiant as ever. She catches my eye and waves, blowing an exaggerated kiss. My stomach lurches. 10 years of friendship telescope down to this moment, this revelation. Every time she's helped me with my career, every introduction she's made, every piece of advice she's given. Was it all just to keep me safely in her shadow? I grab my clutch and head for the elevator, ignoring the calls of, "Birthday girl, where are you going?" My hands shake as I press the lobby button. In the mirrored walls, I see myself as Nicole sees me. The faithful sidekick, the eternal supporting character, carefully styled in a dress she chose. But there's something else in my reflection, too. Something hard and bright in my eyes that wasn't there before. Because what Nicole doesn't know, what she's forgotten in her champagne-soaked superiority, is that I'm the one person who knows where all her bodies are buried. 10 years of secrets, of covering for her, of being the reliable friend who helps clean up her messes. The elevator doors open to the lobby, and I step out feeling lighter than I have all night. Tomorrow, Nicole will wake up to find her carefully constructed world beginning to crumble. And I'll be watching from the shadows she so thoughtfully taught me to inhabit. Happy birthday to me. Morning light filters through my bedroom window, harsh and unforgiving. My phone shows 17 missed calls from Nicole, 38 text messages, and 1 voicemail that I delete without listening. The dress she chose lies crumpled on my floor like a shed skin. I drag myself to the kitchen, where Edison is already waiting with coffee. He stayed over on my couch last night after following me home from the party, worried about my state of mind. Now he watches me with those careful eyes of his, waiting for me to break or explode. "You should eat something," he says, sliding a bagel across the counter. "I should burn that dress," I reply, but I take a bite anyway. "Did you know? About how she really saw me?" Edison's hesitation is answer enough. "Mia, how long?" He sighs, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "I've seen glimpses. The way she takes credit for your ideas at work. How she always positions herself as your mentor rather than your equal. But last night was different. Cruel." My phone buzzes again, Nicole's face lighting up the screen. I silence it without looking. "You know what's funny?" I say, staring into my coffee. Yesterday morning, I was helping her damage control her latest crisis. Again. She called me at 5 a.m. panicking about some documents that could ruin everything if they got out. And I dropped everything to help because that's what sidekicks do, right? Edison straightens. "What documents?" I walk to my home office where my laptop sits beside a thick manila envelope. "These arrived last week. Someone's been collecting receipts on Nicole's creative accounting at work, plus some interesting emails about how she's been taking credit for other people's projects, including mine." Jesus, Mia. Edison picks up the envelope like it might explode. "This is serious. This could end her career." I know. That's why she was so desperate to get ahead of it. I laugh, but there's no humor in it. I spent 6 hours yesterday helping her craft responses, making calls, calling in favors, all while she was probably thinking about what a pathetic little helper I am. My phone buzzes again. This time it's Pearl, probably calling to do damage control on Nicole's behalf. I let it go to voicemail. "What are you going to do?" Edison asks quietly. Before I can answer, there's a pounding at my door. "Mia, I know you're in there." Nicole's voice missing its usual musical quality. "Why aren't you answering your phone? We need to talk." Edison moves toward the door, but I grab his arm. Don't, I whisper. Please. The pounding continues. This isn't funny, Mia. I need those documents back. You can't just disappear with them. Edison's eyes widen as understanding dawns. The documents she was worried about? They were the ones you already had? I nod slowly. She doesn't know that part. She thinks I took them after the party, after overhearing her. She has no idea I've known for days exactly what kind of friend she really is. Mia, please. Nicole's voice cracks. I know you're upset about last night, but I was drunk. I didn't mean any of it. You're my best friend. The words hit like a slap. Best friend. The same person who called me her permanent intern just hours ago. 10 years of friendship, and I never realized I was just another carefully managed asset in Nicole's portfolio. If you don't open this door, I swear to God. You'll what? I call back, surprising myself. Find someone else to clean up your messes? Another sidekick to keep in your shadow? Silence falls heavy on the other side of the door. When Nicole speaks again, her voice is low, dangerous. You don't want to do this, Mia. You have no idea what I know about you. But she's wrong. For the first time, I know exactly what I want to do. I pick up my phone and dial a number I found in the documents. It rings twice before a crisp voice answers. Annabelle May's office. Hi, I say, watching Edison's eyes grow wide as he recognizes the name of Nicole's biggest rival. My name is Mia Emerson. I have some information Ms. May might find interesting about creative accounting practices at her competitor's firm. Nicole must hear something in my tone because she starts pounding on the door again, harder now. But it doesn't matter. The die is cast. I'm listening, Annabelle says. I look at the envelope in my hands, 10 years of loyalty weighing against one night of truth. How soon can we meet? The lobby of Annabelle's office building feels like entering another world. All glass and steel and quiet power, nothing like the startup chaos where Nicole and I work. My heels click against marble as the security guard escorts me to a private elevator. Quite the evidence package you've brought us, Annabelle says by way of greeting. She's shorter than I expected, but her presence fills the corner office. Though I have to ask, why now? These documents are dated from months ago. I set my coffee down on her pristine desk. Let's just say I recently gained some clarity about certain relationships. Ah. Her smile is knowing. Nicole finally showed her true colors? My phone buzzes. Edison again. I silence it, but not before seeing his message. Dylan's looking for you, says it's urgent. The question is, Annabelle continues, what do you want out of this? Besides revenge? The word makes me flinch. I hadn't thought. Of course you have. She leans forward. Everyone who comes to me with dirt has thought about exactly what they want. So let's hear it. Before I can answer, my phone lights up with a call from Malia. I silence it too, but something must show on my face because Annabelle's expression shifts. Having second thoughts? No, I say quickly. Too quickly. There are people who might get caught in the crossfire. There always are. Annabelle stands, walking to her window. Did you know Nicole tried to poach my entire development team last year? Offered them all significant raises, equity packages, but she didn't count on loyalty. My stomach twists. What do you mean? They told me everything, showed me the offers. We used that information to secure our biggest contract to date. She turns back to me. Loyalty is currency, Mia. Nicole never understood that. She sees it as weakness. My phone buzzes again. Dylan. This time I read the message. Need to talk. It's about Nicole. And you. The question, Annabelle says, is whether you're ready to spend that currency. I think of Nicole pounding on my door this morning, of 10 years of carefully crafted manipulation, of being the eternal sidekick. I'm ready, I say. But when I leave Annabelle's office an hour later, Dylan is waiting in the lobby. His face is ashen, his usually perfect hair disheveled. Thank God, he says, grabbing my arm. We need to talk, now. He practically drags me to a nearby coffee shop, checking over his shoulder the whole way. Once we're seated in a corner booth, he pulls out his phone and shows me an email. Nicole sent this to the whole board this morning, after you wouldn't answer her calls. My blood runs cold as I read. The email details every mistake I've ever made at work, every project that didn't quite succeed, every moment of weakness or uncertainty, but twisted, distorted into a pattern of incompetence and manipulation. According to Nicole, I've been riding her coattails for years, taking credit for her work, using her name to advance myself. She's burning you before you can burn her, Dylan says quietly. And it's working. The board is already talking about an investigation. My hands shake as I push the phone away. How did she... I was so careful. Because she's been planning this for months. Dylan won't meet my eyes. She told me to keep records of your mistakes, your conversations, in case she ever needed insurance. The betrayal hits like a physical blow. Dylan, sweet, funny Dylan, who I've had drinks with, who I've confided in, who I thought was my friend too, has been Nicole's spy all along. I'm sorry, he whispers. I didn't know what she'd use it for. I thought it was just business. My phone buzzes again. Edison. Board meeting called for tomorrow morning. About you. The walls feel like they're closing in. In just a few hours, Nicole has turned my planned revenge into a fight for professional survival. And she's only getting started. There's more, Dylan says, looking miserable. She has recordings, conversations where we all said things we shouldn't have. About clients, about the company. I think of all the late nights, all the venting sessions, all the moments I thought I was among friends. Nicole wasn't just collecting ammunition against me. She was building an arsenal. My phone lights up with a text from Annabelle. Deal's still on if you want it, but we move now. I look at Dylan, at his guilty face and nervous hands, at the evidence of how completely Nicole had orchestrated my potential downfall, long before I ever thought about orchestrating hers. I have to go, I tell him, standing up. Because now I know, this isn't just about revenge anymore. It's about survival. The boardroom feels like a courtroom, all polished wood and accusatory stares. I sit alone at one end of the long table while Nicole holds court at the other, perfectly composed in a cream blazer that probably costs more than my rent. These allegations are disturbing, says Marcus, the CEO. Mia, do you have anything to say in your defense? Defense? Like I'm on trial? Which I suppose I am. I think, I say carefully, that timing is interesting here. These concerns only surfaced after I began looking into certain accounting irregularities. Nicole's smile doesn't waver, but her knuckles whiten around her water glass. I think we should focus on the documented issues at hand, she says smoothly. The pattern of behavior, like the pattern of redirecting project credits? I interrupt, pulling out my own folder. I have documentation too, including emails where you specifically instructed team members to remove my name from presentations. A ripple of murmurs around the table. Nicole's smile turns brittle. I think, says Marcus, we should take a brief recess. In the hallway, Edison appears like a ghost. Pearl wants to talk to you, he whispers. Says it's important. She's in the break room. I find Pearl pacing between the coffee machines, looking like she hasn't slept. When she sees me, her eyes fill with tears. I'm so sorry, she says. I should have told you sooner, about everything. What do you mean, everything? She pulls out her phone, hands shaking. Nicole, she doesn't just have recordings of you. She has them of all of us. Everything we've ever said about the company, about clients, about each other. She's been collecting them for years. My stomach drops. Why are you telling me this now? Because she played me one last night. A conversation from 2 years ago where Pearl swallows hard. Where I admitted to fudging some numbers on the Martinez account. She said if I don't back up her story about you, she'll release it. The pieces click into place. She's blackmailing everyone. Pearl nods miserably. Dylan, Malia, me. We all have something to lose. something she carefully collected and saved just in case. My phone buzzes. Annabelle. Board meeting's not going well. Time to play our hand? But before I can respond, another message appears. From Nicole. Break room. Now. Alone. I tell Pearl to go. When Nicole arrives minutes later, she's still wearing that perfect smile. You know, she says, I really did love you like a sister. Still do, actually. Funny way of showing it. Oh, please. She rolls her eyes. You think I became successful by being nice? By trusting people? I kept you close because you were useful. Loyal. The perfect sidekick. Until I wasn't. Until you forgot your place. She steps closer. But I'm willing to be generous. Walk away now. Resign quietly. I'll make sure you get a good recommendation. Help you find something new. We can even stay friends. I laugh, the sound harsh in the quiet room. Friends? After everything you've done? I've done? Her smile finally cracks. Who's meeting with my biggest rival? Who's threatening to expose confidential documents? You're not as clean in this as you pretend, Mia. She's right, and we both know it. In trying to escape her shadow, I've started becoming more like her than I ever wanted to admit. Here's what's going to happen. Nicole continues. You're going to go back into that boardroom and admit to everything. Take full responsibility. I'll smooth things over, help minimize the damage. It's the best offer you're going to get. My phone buzzes again. Annabelle. Decision time. I look at Nicole. Really look at her. Behind the perfect exterior, I see something I never noticed before. Fear. She's terrified. Not just of losing control, but of being exposed. Of someone seeing behind the carefully constructed facade. You're right about one thing, I say. I'm not clean in this. But at least I'm not afraid of people seeing who I really am. Her eyes narrow. What's that supposed to mean? Instead of answering, I text Annabelle back. Do it. Nicole's phone chimes immediately. Then everyone else is in the building. Mass email. The color drains from Nicole's face as she reads. Because Annabelle didn't just expose the creative accounting. She exposed everything. Every manipulated project credit. Every blackmail recording. Every carefully orchestrated betrayal. You'll go down with me, Nicole whispers, but there's uncertainty in her voice now. Maybe, I say, heading for the door. But at least I'll go down as myself, not someone's sidekick. I leave her there, staring at her phone as her perfect world crumbles one email at a time. The aftermath feels like a bomb has gone off. Security escorts Nicole from the building while HR sends everyone else home, pending investigation. I sit in my empty office, watching people hurry past with boxes of personal items, avoiding eye contact. Edison appears in my doorway. Malia's crying in the bathroom, he says quietly. Her recording was personal. Things she said about her marriage. Nicole promised she deleted it. The victory I felt an hour ago curdles in my stomach. I didn't know which recordings Annabelle had. I just told her to release everything. I know. He sits across from me. But that's the thing about scorched earth tactics. Everything burns. My phone lights up with messages, mostly from unknown numbers. Former colleagues calling me brave, calling me a traitor, asking why I didn't warn them, telling me I'm just as bad as Nicole. They're not wrong. The board wants to see you, Edison says. And Mia? Dylan's in there too. The walk to the boardroom feels longer than before. Dylan sits hunched in his chair, looking shell-shocked. Marcus stands at the window, his back to us both. Well, he says finally, turning around. This is quite a mess you've created. Sir, He holds up a hand. The good news is, the creative accounting evidence is solid. Nicole's actions were illegal, and the company will be pressing charges. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. The bad news, he continues, is that the collateral damage is extensive. Private conversations exposed. Client relationships compromised. Employee trust shattered. Dylan makes a small, broken sound. And you two. Marcus fixes us with a hard stare. We're at the center of it all. Dylan feeding information to Nicole. Mia feeding information to Annabelle. Both of you choosing nuclear options instead of coming to me directly. We didn't think. Dylan starts. No, you didn't. Marcus sighs. The board has decided that termination is the only option, for both of you. The words hit like physical blows. I knew there would be consequences, but somehow I thought exposing Nicole would protect me, make me the whistleblower instead of the villain. You have an hour to clear out your desks, Marcus says. Security will escort you out. In the elevator, Dylan finally speaks. I loved her, you know, Nicole. That's why I did it. Why I helped her collect all those recordings. I know, I say, because I do. Nicole had a way of making you feel special, chosen, until you weren't. But you know what's really messed up? He laughs bitterly. I think I helped destroy you because I was jealous. You were her real best friend. I was just convenient. The elevator doors open to reveal Pearl waiting in the lobby. When she sees me, her face crumples. How could you? She demands. That recording. My marriage was falling apart. I was drunk and scared and trusted Nicole to delete it. Now everyone knows. My husband knows. Pearl, I'm sorry. No, you're not. Her voice breaks. You're just like her, using people's trust as ammunition. At least Nicole was honest about being a snake. She turns and walks away, heels clicking against marble. Behind me, Dylan silently heads toward his desk. My phone buzzes. Annabelle. Messy, but effective. Let's talk about your future. Dinner tonight? I think about accepting, about turning this nuclear wasteland into a career opportunity. Isn't that what Nicole would do? Instead, I text Edison. Need a drink? Or 10? I find him waiting outside, hands in his pockets. You okay? I destroyed everything, I say. My career, my friendships, people's marriages. All because I couldn't stand being someone's sidekick anymore. No, he says firmly. You exposed real wrongdoing. The method was messy, but I became exactly what I hated. I laugh, the sound edged with hysteria. Nicole collected people's secrets to use as weapons. And what did I do? Use those same weapons. I didn't beat her, Edison. I replaced her. My phone buzzes again. An unknown number, but I recognize the email address in the preview. It's from one of Nicole's other victims, someone from years ago, someone whose career she destroyed, someone who's been waiting for this moment. The message is simple. Ready to finish what you started? Edison reads over my shoulder. Mia, don't. You've done enough. But have I? Nicole's facing charges for the financial fraud, but what about everything else? All the other lives she's ruined? Don't they deserve justice, too? I look at Edison's worried face, then back at my phone, at the chance to either stop this spiral or dive deeper into it. I need to make this right, I say. Which version of right? He asks quietly. Nicole's? Or yours? I wish I knew the answer. The cafe is empty except for me and Nicole's first victim. Rachel looks exactly like her LinkedIn photo from 6 years ago. Sharp features, sharper eyes, the kind of person who doesn't forget. I've been watching you, she says, stirring her untouched coffee. Watching her too, waiting for someone to finally crack her perfect facade. And now that someone has? Now we finish it. Rachel slides a USB drive across the table. This is everything I collected before she destroyed my career. Bank transfers, altered contracts, private emails, things even Annabelle doesn't know about. My hand hovers over the drive. Why didn't you use this yourself? I tried, but Nicole was too powerful, too connected. Nobody would touch it. Rachel's smile is cold. But now, with her reputation in tatters and criminal charges pending, perfect timing. My phone buzzes. Edison. Where are you? We need to talk. I ignore it. What exactly are you proposing? Release everything, not just the professional dirt, the personal stuff too. Her family's dirty money, her brother's rehab stays, everything she's tried to bury. The cafe door chimes. I look up to see Malia entering, eyes red but determined. "Sorry I'm late," she says, sitting down. "Had to lose the reporters camping outside my house." Rachel's smile widens. "Excellent. I was just showing Mia what we've collected." "We?" I look between them. "Did you think you were the only one Nicole betrayed?" Malia's voice is hard. "Rachel found me last night, showed me everything. This goes so much deeper than office politics, Mia." My phone buzzes again. "Edison. Nicole's been arrested. Things are getting worse." "The question," Rachel says, "is whether you're ready to go all the way. No more half measures." The USB drive sits between us like a loaded gun. I think about Pearl's marriage, Dylan's broken trust, my own scorched career. "This would destroy her completely," I say. "Yes." Rachel doesn't blink. "That's the point." The cafe door chimes again. This time it's Edison, looking frantic. "Mia, thank God. You need to see this." He holds up his phone. A news article about Nicole's arrest. But it's not just about the creative accounting anymore. Somehow the story has shifted. Now it's about a conspiracy. About how I orchestrated everything, manipulated evidence, collaborated with corporate rivals. "She's spinning it," Edison says, "making herself the victim, and people are believing her." Rachel laughs. "Of course they are. It's what she does best. Why do you think I lost everything 6 years ago?" My phone explodes with notifications. Social media is catching fire with Nicole's version of events. Former colleagues are posting about how I manipulated them, betrayed their trust. The narrative is slipping away from me. "Now do you understand?" Malia asks quietly. "Why we need to use everything?" Edison reads the room. "Mia, don't. This isn't justice anymore. It's annihilation." "Sometimes they're the same thing," Rachel says. I stare at the USB drive, remembering Nicole's words in the break room. "You think I became successful by being nice?" No. She became successful by being ruthless. By understanding that sometimes you have to destroy someone completely to ensure they never rise again. Just like I'm considering doing now. "If we do this," I say slowly, "we're no better than her." "Maybe not," Malia replies. "But at least we'll win." My phone buzzes one final time. A text from Nicole, sent from wherever they're holding her. "You should have taken the deal. Now everyone will see who you really are." I pick up the USB drive, feeling its weight. Inside is enough ammunition to not just destroy Nicole's career, but her entire life. Her family, her future, everything. Just like she would do to me, is already trying to do to me. "Mia," Edison says softly. "Please." Rachel and Malia watch me expectantly. 2 more women shaped by Nicole's betrayal, waiting to see if I'll become what we all hated. I stand up. "No," I say. "No?" Rachel's eyes narrow. "After everything she's done? I won't help you destroy her life." I set the USB drive down. "But I will help you tell the truth. The real truth, with real evidence. No personal attacks, no collateral damage, just facts." "That's not enough," Malia protests. "It has to be." I look at Edison, see the relief in his eyes. Because if we do it her way, we prove her right. About all of us. I walk out before they can argue, Edison following close behind. Outside, the sun is setting over the city, painting everything in shades of gold and shadow. "You know they'll release it anyway," he says. I know. I watch a news van drive past, hunting for the next sensational headline. But I won't be part of it. I'm done playing by Nicole's rules. So what's our next move? I smile, feeling lighter than I have in days. We're going to tell my story. All of it. Before she can twist it any further. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't destruction. It's truth. The police station's interview room smells like stale coffee and anxiety. Nicole sits across from me, still somehow immaculate despite spending the night in custody. Only her eyes reveal the cracks in her armor. They're fever bright, desperate. "Come to gloat?" she asks. "No." I set my phone on the table between us, recording app open. "I came to give you a choice." Her lawyer shifts uncomfortably beside her but doesn't speak. We both know this isn't a legal conversation. "Rachel and Malia want to release everything," I continue. "Not just the work stuff, everything." Something flickers across Nicole's face, the first real fear I've seen from her. "You wouldn't." I wouldn't. But they would. I lean forward. "Unless you tell the truth. All of it. Starting with what really happened 6 years ago with Rachel." Nicole laughs, but it's brittle. "And why would I do that?" "Because deep down, you're tired, aren't you? Tired of maintaining the perfect facade. Tired of keeping track of all the lies and manipulations. Tired of seeing enemies in every shadow. You don't know anything about me. I know everything about you. 10 years of everything." I tap my phone. "So here's the choice. Tell your story, the real story, or let Rachel tell it for you." The lawyer whispers something in her ear. She ignores him. "You really want to know the truth?" Nicole's voice drops to a whisper. I was terrified. All the time. Of being exposed as a fraud. Of people seeing through me, so I collected their secrets before they could collect mine. Kept everyone off balance so they couldn't see how scared I was. The confession hangs in the air between us. Outside, I hear footsteps in the hallway, voices murmuring. Rachel was the first one who saw through me. Nicole continues. She was going to expose everything. So I destroyed her first. And it worked so well, I just kept going. It was easier than being vulnerable. "And me?" "You." Her smile turned sad. "You were the worst threat of all, because you saw the real me and loved me anyway, like a sister, until you didn't." The door opens. Edison steps in, right on schedule. "It's done," he says quietly. Nicole's eyes dart between us. "What's done?" I slide my phone across the table, open to a news website. The headline reads, "Exclusive. Former executive tells all. A story of power, fear, and redemption." "Your confession just went live," I say. "The real story. Not the twisted version you've been spinning or the nuclear option Rachel wanted. Just the truth." The color drains from her face as she reads. Every word from the last 5 minutes, transcribed and published. Her vulnerability, her fear, her humanity. "You can't," she starts. "I already did." I stand up. "The world doesn't see you as a monster anymore, Nicole. Just a scared, broken person who hurt people because she was hurting. That's your punishment. Being seen. Really seen." "You've ruined me," she whispers. "No, I've freed you. And me. And everyone else you tried to control." I head for the door, then pause. "Oh, and those personal files Rachel and Malia wanted to release? I destroyed them this morning. Some secrets deserve to stay buried." Edison follows me out. In the hallway, my phone is already exploding with notifications. The story is spreading, but not the way Nicole feared. People are sharing their own stories of workplace manipulation, of toxic friendships, of finding the courage to be vulnerable. "You okay?" Edison asks softly. "No," I admit. "But I will be." My phone buzzes with a text from Pearl. "Just read the article. Can we talk?" Then Malia. "You were right. This was better. Even Rachel. Not what I wanted, but maybe what I needed." "What now?" Edison asks as we step into the sunlight. I think about Nicole, sitting alone in that interview room, finally seen for who she really is. About how freedom sometimes comes from letting go of revenge. Now? I smile. Now I stop being anyone's sidekick, including my own. He takes my hand, and for the first time, I let him. Because that's the thing about stepping out of someone's shadow. You finally get to choose your own light. My phone buzzes one last time. A message from Nicole. "I'm sorry for everything, and Thank you. I don't respond. Some stories don't need another chapter. Sometimes the best ending is simply walking away, head held high, into whatever comes next. Edison squeezes my hand. Ready? I look back at the police station one last time, then forward at the city sprawling before us. Ready. Because the best revenge isn't destruction or exposure or even truth. It's living well, on your own terms, in your own story. Finally, I'm ready to write mine. The morning sun streams through my apartment windows as I pack the last of my office things into boxes. My phone lights up with another job offer, the 5th this week. Ever since the article went viral, companies have been scrambling to show they take workplace toxicity seriously. I delete it without reading. Edison brings me coffee, watching as I pick up the black dress from my birthday party. Keep it or donate? Burn it, I say, then pause. No, actually, I have a better idea. An hour later, I'm standing outside a women's shelter, boxes of designer clothes in my arms. Everything Nicole ever chose for me. The shelter director, Maria, greets me with a knowing smile. Interview outfits, I explain, for women starting over. As we sort through the clothes, my phone buzzes. Pearl. Coffee? Found a new place? No memories there. I meet her at a tiny cafe in a neighborhood I've never visited. She looks different, lighter somehow, despite the shadows under her eyes. The divorce papers came through yesterday, she says without preamble. Turns out the recording wasn't what ended my marriage. It just made me finally face what I already knew. I'm sorry. Don't be. She stirs her coffee. I'm starting a support group for people recovering from toxic relationships, romantic, professional, whatever. Was wondering if you'd come speak. Before I can answer, my phone lights up with a news alert. Tech startup announces major leadership changes. Former executive Nicole Diaz pleads guilty, agrees to industry ban. Pearl reads it over my shoulder. Is it weird that I feel sorry for her? No, I say. I do too, but not sorry enough to let her back in. Speaking of letting people in, Pearl's eyes drift to something behind me. Isn't that Edison? He's outside the cafe window, pretending to be fascinated by a newspaper stand. I haven't seen him since that day at the police station, since that moment of almost something between us. Go, Pearl says softly. Some stories deserve a new chapter. I find him still studying headlines. Anything interesting? Just this story about a woman who chose truth over revenge. He looks up, smiling. Pretty compelling stuff. I heard she's still figuring out her next move. Any ideas? I think about Pearl's support group, about Maria's shelter, about all the messages I've received from people sharing similar stories. Actually, yes. I pull out my phone, show him the website I've been building. A platform for people to share their experiences, resources for recognizing manipulation, legal aid contacts, a place to find your voice when someone's tried to silence it. Not exactly the corporate comeback people are expecting. Good. I close the browser. I'm done meeting expectations, especially other people's. My phone buzzes. Malia wanting to grab lunch. Then Rachel asking about collaborating on a workplace ethics workshop. Even Dylan apologizing again, seeking redemption. Looks like you're in demand, Edison says. Looks like I'm exactly where I need to be. A final message comes through. From Nicole's brother, of all people. She's starting therapy, he writes. Real therapy this time. Says you showed her there's strength in being seen. I delete the message without responding. Some bridges stay burned, and that's okay. So, Edison says, taking my hand. What's next? I look at our reflection in the cafe window. No designer clothes, no carefully curated image, just me. Finally, completely me. First, coffee, I say. Then we build something real. Together? Together. I squeeze his hand. But not as sidekicks. We walk into the cafe where Pearl waits, where new possibilities simmer like fresh coffee, where the morning light turns everything golden. My phone stays quiet in my pocket. Not because there aren't messages coming in, but because I'm finally choosing which voices to hear. And for the first time since my birthday, since that rooftop revelation that shattered everything, I feel truly, completely free. Not because I destroyed my enemy, but because I refused to become her. Because I chose to write my own story, even when others tried to edit it. Pearl waves us over, already pulling out chairs. Edison's hand stays warm in mine. Outside, the city pulses with millions of stories waiting to be told. This one's mine. And I'm just getting started.
I've always found peace in my parents' apartment. Something about the way the evening light filters through the tall windows, casting long shadows across the hardwood floors. Today, the quiet feels especially welcome after a brutal week at work. I kick off my shoes, padding barefoot across the cool floor, savoring the silence. My parents are in Europe for their anniversary. 3 months touring places they'd always dreamed of visiting. They'd asked me to house sit, which really meant watering the plants and enjoying unlimited access to their well-stocked wine collection. I pour myself a generous glass of Cabernet and sink into the plush sofa, feeling the tension in my shoulders begin to unwind. Home, sweet home, I murmur, though it hasn't been my home for years. Still, it feels more like home than my cramped studio apartment ever has. I take a sip, savoring the rich flavor, and pull out my phone to scroll through messages. Nothing urgent. I set an alarm for 30 minutes, just enough time for a power nap before I need to start dinner. The wine, the comfort of the familiar space, the exhaustion of the work week, it all pulls me under quickly. The sound of keys jangling in the lock jerks me awake. I blink, disoriented, as the front door swings open. My parents stand in the doorway, looking tanned and tired. Mom? Dad? I sit up, confused. You're not supposed to be back for another month. My mother, Olive, doesn't meet my eyes. My father, Robert, clears his throat. Delilah, he says, his voice oddly formal. We didn't expect you to be here. I'm house-sitting, remember? You asked me to. The words die in my throat as 2 men in uniforms appear behind my parents, carrying flattened cardboard boxes. What's going on? I ask, standing now, my wine glass forgotten on the coffee table. We need to pack up, my mother says, still not looking at me. The movers are here to help. Pack up? For what? My father sighs, finally stepping fully into the apartment. We've sold the place, Delilah. The new owners take possession tomorrow. The room seems to tilt beneath my feet. You sold, but you never said anything about selling. It was a quick decision, my mother says, busying herself with her purse. An opportunity we couldn't pass up. The movers hover awkwardly by the door. One of them clears his throat. Where should we start, sir? My father gestures vaguely. The bedroom first, I think. We'll need to sort through the living room ourselves. They nod and move past me like I'm not even there. I don't understand, I say, my voice sounding small and far away. Where are you going to live? We bought a place in Arizona, my father says, not quite meeting my eyes either. Smaller, more manageable, better weather for your mother's arthritis. Arizona? The word feels foreign on my tongue. But your whole life is here. Your friends, your doctors, your... Things change, Delilah, my mother cuts in, her voice sharper than I expect. We're not getting any younger. I stand there trying to process what's happening. The apartment I've always thought of as my safety net, my backup plan, my home base, gone, without warning, without discussion. When were you planning to tell me? I ask, hating how my voice trembles. My father checks his watch. We need to get moving if we're going to finish today. Delilah, you should probably gather whatever belongings you have here. Robert, my mother murmurs, touching his arm. Maybe we should... There's no time, Olive, he says firmly. The truck comes at 8 tomorrow morning. I feel like I've been slapped. So that's it. You just show up and tell me to get my stuff and go. Don't be dramatic, my father says. It's not like you live here. No, I just water your plants and feed your cat and check your mail when you're gone for months at a time, I snap. I just store half my winter clothes in the guest closet. I just have a key and an open invitation to stay whenever I want. Had, my mother corrects quietly. You had a key. The word lands like a blow. I look at her, really look at her, and see something I've never noticed before. A coldness, a calculation in her eyes that makes me wonder if I've ever really known her at all. I need to use the bathroom, I mutter, needing to escape their gaze. I lock the door behind me and grip the edge of the sink, staring at my reflection. My eyes are wide, my face pale. I splash cold water on my cheeks, trying to wake myself from what feels like a nightmare. When I emerge, the apartment is already transforming. Boxes half filled, pictures removed from walls, the familiar space becoming unfamiliar by the minute. I grab my bag, unable to bear watching anymore. I'll get out of your way, I say stiffly. My father nods absently, already focused on wrapping a vase in newspaper. My mother at least has the decency to look uncomfortable. We'll call you when we're settled, she offers. I don't respond. At the door, I pause, my hand on the knob. Something catches my eye, the hall closet door, slightly ajar. Through the crack, I glimpse stacks of boxes labeled in my grandmother's handwriting. The antiques collection she'd left to me in her will, which my parents had promised to store safely until I had space for them. They hadn't even remembered to pack them. I don't remember leaving the apartment building. I don't remember walking 6 blocks in a daze or stopping at the liquor store for a bottle of cheap vodka. But here I am, sitting on the floor of my studio apartment, staring at the antique boxes I somehow managed to salvage before my parents could forget them completely. My grandmother's treasures, the only person who ever made me feel like I mattered. You're special, Delilah, she used to whisper, pressing old trinkets into my hands. Don't let anyone make you feel otherwise. I take another swig straight from the bottle, wincing as it burns down my throat. My phone buzzes for the 5th time, Violet calling again. I finally answer. Where have you been? Her voice crackles with concern. I've been trying to reach you for hours. They sold the apartment, I say, my voice flat. They just showed up and started packing. What? Your parents? But they're supposed to be in Europe. Apparently they came back early to sell everything and move to Arizona. The words taste bitter. They didn't even tell me. Jesus, Delilah, are you okay? I laugh, a harsh sound that surprises even me. No, I'm not okay. I'm coming over. Don't, please. I stare at the boxes. I need to be alone right now. Silence stretches between us. Violet knows me well enough to recognize when pushing is pointless. Call me tomorrow, she finally says. Promise me. I promise. After hanging up, I pull the nearest box toward me. The tape is yellowed with age, the cardboard soft at the corners. I slice it open with a kitchen knife, revealing tissue-wrapped parcels nestled inside. One by one, I unwrap them. A delicate porcelain figurine of a dancer, a tarnished silver hand mirror, a small wooden box inlaid with mother of pearl. Each piece carries memories of afternoons spent with my grandmother, learning their histories, absorbing her stories. This mirror belonged to a countess, she'd told me, eyes twinkling, and this box held love letters from a sailor to his sweetheart during the war. Whether the stories were true didn't matter. What mattered was how she made me feel, like I was being entrusted with something precious, something valuable. Unlike my parents, who never thought I was worth telling about their major life decisions, the next box contains larger items, a bronze clock, a set of leather-bound books, a small oil painting of a countryside I don't recognize. I handle each piece carefully, despite my growing intoxication, arranging them on my coffee table, like an impromptu museum exhibition. Near the bottom of the 3rd box, my fingers touch something cool and heavy. I pull out a small jade figurine, about the size of my palm. A dragon with ruby eyes that catch the dim light of my apartment. This is the most valuable piece in my collection, my grandmother had whispered the day she showed it to me. Ming Dynasty, worth more than everything else combined. I'd forgotten about it completely. I turn it over in my hands, studying the intricate carving, the perfect weight of it. A quick search on my phone confirms what I already suspected. If authentic, this piece alone could be worth tens of thousands of dollars. My grandmother had left these to me. Not to my parents, to me. And they'd hidden them away, forgotten about them, and nearly lost them in their rush to abandon their life here, to abandon me. Something cold and clear cuts through the alcohol haze. A purpose, a plan. I carefully rewrap the dragon and place it in my bedside drawer. The rest of the night passes in a blur of internet research, auction house websites, and antique dealer reviews. By morning, my head pounds with a hangover, but my mind is surprisingly focused. My phone rings, Violet checking in as promised. "I'm coming over," she says, not a question this time, "and I'm bringing coffee." 30 minutes later, she surveys the antiques spread across my apartment, eyebrows raised. "Your grandmother left you all this?" I nod, nursing the coffee she brought. "Years ago, my parents were storing it for me." "And now you're what? Going to sell it?" "Some of it." I don't mention the jade dragon. Not yet. "It's mine to sell." Violet sits beside me on the couch. "Del, I get that you're hurt, but..." "Hurt?" I laugh again, that same harsh sound. "Hurt is when someone steps on your toe or forgets your birthday. This is..." I struggle to find the words. This is like they erased me, like I never mattered at all. She doesn't argue, just takes my hand and squeezes it. "They've always done this," I continue, the words pouring out now. "Made decisions without considering me. Treated me like an afterthought. But this time..." I shake my head. "This time, I'm not just going to take it." "What are you going to do?" I look at her, suddenly aware of how my next words might sound. "I'm going to make them feel what I felt. I'm going to take something from them that they thought was secure." Violet's eyes widen slightly. "Delilah, not physically," I clarify, "but they're going to know what it feels like to have the rug pulled out from under them. To be forgotten." She studies my face for a long moment. "This doesn't sound like you. Maybe it should have been me all along." I stand up, suddenly energized. Maybe I've spent too many years being the good daughter who never complains, never pushes back. My phone buzzes with the text. It's from an unknown number, but the message makes my heart skip. "Heard you're looking to sell some antiques. I might be interested. Old friend of your grandmother's. Call me." Zane. I stare at the screen, a strange mix of surprise and something like destiny washing over me. "Who is it?" Violet asks. I look up at her, feeling the first genuine smile in days spread across my face. "It's a sign," I say. "The universe is telling me I'm on the right path." "Are you sure about this?" Violet asks, watching me adjust my blouse in the mirror. "Meeting some random guy who texted you out of nowhere?" "He's not random. He knew my grandmother." I smooth my hair, trying to look more put together than I feel. "And we're meeting in a public place." Still, something feels off. I don't tell her that something feels off to me too, but in a different way. Like stepping onto a path I can't see the end of, exhilarating and terrifying at once. "I'll be fine," I say, grabbing my purse. Inside is a small velvet pouch containing the jade dragon. "I'm just getting information." The cafe is busy enough to feel safe, but quiet enough for conversation. I spot him immediately, tall, with dark hair streaked with premature silver at the temples. He stands when he sees me, a half smile playing on his lips. "Delilah," he says, extending his hand. "You look just like her." His grip is firm, his eyes a startling shade of green. "Like who?" "Your grandmother, of course." He gestures for me to sit. "I'm Zayn." "How did you know my grandmother?" I ask, settling into the chair across from him. "We moved in the same circles. Antique collectors, auction enthusiasts." He shrugs. "She had an eye like no other." A waitress appears and we both order coffee. I study him while he speaks to her. His clothes are expensive but understated, his manner confident without being arrogant. "So," he says when we're alone again, "you've come into her collection." It's not a question. "Parts of it," I say carefully. I'm considering selling some pieces, including the dragon. My breath catches. How did you... Like I said, I knew your grandmother. She showed me that piece once, years ago. His eyes hold mine. It's quite valuable. So I've heard. May I see it? I hesitate, then reach into my purse. The cafe is crowded. No one is paying attention to us. I pass the velvet pouch across the table. Zane's fingers brush mine as he takes it, sending an unexpected shiver up my arm. He opens the pouch carefully, tipping the dragon into his palm. His expression changes subtly as he examines it, a softening around the eyes, a slight parting of the lips. Beautiful, he murmurs, and authentic. You can tell just by looking. His eyes flick up to mine. I've been doing this a long time. He returns the dragon to its pouch and hands it back to me. I can help you sell it, for the right price to the right buyer. And what would that price be? He names a figure that makes my coffee go cold in my stomach. More than I expected. Much more. That's substantial. It's fair, maybe even a bit low. He leans forward. But I'm curious, Delilah. Why now? Your grandmother left you these pieces years ago, didn't she? The question catches me off guard. How did you know that? She told me, before she died. He studies me. She was worried your parents might try to interfere. A cold feeling spreads through my chest. What do you mean? They never approved of her collection. Thought she spent too much money on useless trinkets. His mouth twists. They tried to get her to sell several times. This is news to me. My parents had always seemed indifferent to my grandmother's collection, not hostile. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you should know who you're dealing with. He takes a sip of his coffee. Your grandmother trusted me. She knew I would treat her collection with respect. Something in his tone makes me uneasy. And my parents wouldn't? Let's just say they had different priorities. I think about the boxes, forgotten in a closet, about the apartment, sold without a word to me. I need to think about this, I say finally. Of course. He slides a business card across the table. Take your time, but not too much time. The market fluctuates. Outside, the afternoon sun feels too bright. I check my phone. 3 missed calls from my mother. I ignore them and call Violet instead. How was it? She asks immediately. Strange, I admit. He knew things about my family, about my grandmother. That's creepy, maybe. Or maybe he's exactly who he says he is. I pause at a crosswalk. He offered a lot of money for the dragon. How much? I tell her. She whistles low. What would you do with that kind of money? The question stops me short. I hadn't thought that far ahead. Revenge had been my only goal, selling what my parents had forgotten, what they'd tried to keep from me. But with that kind of money... I don't know, I say honestly, but it would change things. My phone buzzes with a text. My mother again. Delilah, please call us. It's important. I ignore it. I think I'm going to do it, I tell Violet. Sell the dragon. Maybe more pieces. Are you sure that's what this is about? Selling antiques? I close my eyes briefly. No. It's about making them realize they can't just throw me away. When I get home, there's an email waiting for me. From my father, which is unusual. He hates digital communication. Delilah, your mother and I need your help. The move has been more complicated than we anticipated. There are some financial matters that require immediate attention. Please call us as soon as possible. Dad. Financial matters. My father, who has never discussed money with me, suddenly needs my help. My phone rings again. My mother. This time I answer. Delilah, thank goodness, she says, her voice tight with what sounds like genuine distress. We've been trying to reach you. I've been busy, I say coldly. Honey, we need to talk to you. It's important. More important than telling me you were selling the apartment, moving across the country. She sighs. We deserve that. But please, this is serious. Your father and I, we're in trouble. Something in her voice makes me pause. What kind of trouble? The kind we can't discuss over the phone. She hesitates. We need your signature on some documents, and we need to ask a favor. I think of Zane's words about my parents' priorities, about the money the dragon could bring, about years of feeling secondary, forgotten. I'll think about it, I say finally, and hang up. My phone lights up immediately with a text from Zane. Have you decided? I stare at the message, feeling caught between two forces pulling me in opposite directions. The path ahead suddenly seems much less clear than it did this morning. I agree to meet my parents at a diner halfway between my apartment and their hotel. Neutral territory. I arrive early, ordering coffee I don't touch, watching the door with my heart hammering against my ribs. They look smaller somehow when they walk in. My father's shoulders are hunched, my mother's smile strained as they spot me. They slide into the booth across from me, and for a moment none of us speak. You look tired, my mother finally says. I haven't been sleeping well. I don't add that it's because of them. My father clears his throat. Thank you for meeting us, Delilah. You said it was important. They exchange glances. My father nods slightly, and my mother reaches into her purse, pulling out a manila envelope. We need you to sign these, she says, sliding it across the table. It's for the Arizona property. I don't touch it. What about it? My father sighs. The truth is, we're not in great financial shape. The European trip, he trails off. You spent too much, I finish for him. That, and some investments that didn't pan out. He rubs his forehead. We had to sell the apartment quickly, below market value. And now you need my help. The irony isn't lost on me. With what exactly? The new place is under contract, but there's an issue with the financing. My mother taps the envelope. We need a co-signer, someone with good credit. I stare at them, incredulous. You want me to co-sign your mortgage? After you sold our family home without even telling me? It wasn't your home, Delilah, my father says, an edge creeping into his voice. You haven't lived there in years. It was the only stable thing in my life. The words burst out louder than I intended. A few heads turn our way. I lower my voice. You knew what that apartment meant to me. We didn't have a choice, my mother insists. Robert's pension isn't what we expected, and my healthcare costs. You had a choice about whether to tell me. I cut in. You chose not to. Silence falls. A waitress approaches, senses the tension, and veers away. You're right, my father says finally, surprising me. We should have told you. We were embarrassed. Embarrassed? To admit we'd failed. He looks older than I've ever seen him. To admit we needed help. Something twists in my chest. A flicker of sympathy I quickly extinguish. So instead, you just cut me out completely. We were going to call you once we were settled, my mother says, reaching for my hand. I pull it away. We just needed some time to figure things out. I think of the jade dragon sitting in my apartment, of Zane's offer, of the other antiques, still waiting to be valued. What happens if I don't sign? My father's face hardens. We lose the deposit. We have nowhere to live. You could stay with me, I say, though my studio barely fits my own things. Don't be ridiculous, he snaps. We're asking for a signature, not charity. The old familiar sting. My suggestion's never good enough. My help never the right kind. I need time to think about it, I say, standing up. I'll let you know. Delilah, please, my mother calls as I walk away. I don't look back. Outside, I call Zine. I want to sell the dragon, I say when he answers, and I want to do it quickly. Come to my office tomorrow, he replies, sounding pleased. I have a buyer lined up. I hang up and text Violet. Need to talk. Coming over. She opens her door with a glass of wine already poured for me. One look at my face and she pulls me into a hug. That bad? Worse? I sink onto her couch. They want me to co-sign their mortgage. They're broke. She sits beside me. And you said that I'd think about it. I take a long sip of wine. But I'm selling the dragon tomorrow. Violet studies me. To help them? The question catches me off guard. No, for me. Are you sure? Because it sounds like you're still making decisions based on them. What's that supposed to mean? Just that selling a family heirloom out of spite isn't exactly moving on. She says it gently, but it still stings. It's not spite, I argue. It's justice. Is it, or is it just another way of staying connected to them? I stand up, suddenly restless. You don't understand. I understand that they hurt you. Badly. She follows me to the window. But I'm worried about what this revenge plan is doing to you. It's giving me power, I say. For once in my life, I'm not just taking whatever they dish out. There's a difference between standing up for yourself and becoming someone you're not. I turn to face her. Maybe I'm finally becoming who I should have been all along. She doesn't respond, just looks at me with concern in her eyes. I should go, I say, setting down my barely touched wine. I have things to prepare for tomorrow. Delilah. I'll call you after, I promise, already heading for the door. Back in my apartment, I take out the dragon, turning it over in my hands. My grandmother's voice echoes in my memory. This is special, Delilah. Like you. My phone buzzes with a text from my mother. Please call us tomorrow. We need an answer soon. I set the phone down without responding and carefully wrap the dragon. As I do, I notice something I hadn't seen before. Tiny characters etched into the base. Chinese, maybe? I take a photo and run it through a translation app. The result makes my breath catch. Family endures through storm and silence. Was this my grandmother's message to me, or just a coincidence? Either way, it's too late to reconsider. I've made my choice. Tomorrow the dragon goes to its new owner, and I take my first real step toward independence, or revenge. I'm no longer sure which. My phone rings again. It's Zane. Change of plans, he says without preamble. My buyer wants to meet tonight. Can you be ready in an hour? I look at the wrapped dragon, at the text from my mother still glowing on my phone screen. Yes, I say firmly. I'm ready now. Zane's office is in a converted warehouse downtown. All exposed brick and steel beams. It's after hours, and the building is eerily quiet as he leads me through a maze of hallways. My buyer is very private, he explains, his hand resting lightly on my lower back. He prefers discretion. Something about his touch makes me uneasy, but I push the feeling aside. I'm here for one reason, to sell the dragon and take control of my life. The conference room is dimly lit, dominated by a long table where a man sits with his back to us. He turns as we enter, older, with silver hair and wire-rimmed glasses. Ah, the granddaughter, he says, standing. His accent is faintly European. I'm Victor. He doesn't offer his hand, just gestures for me to sit. I place my bag on the table, suddenly hesitant. The dragon, Zine prompts. I reach into my bag and unwrap the jade figure, placing it on the table between us. Victor picks it up without asking, turning it over in his hands. His expression gives nothing away. Authentic, he confirms after a long examination, though I believe there is damage to the base. There's no damage, I say automatically. I checked it carefully. Victor raises an eyebrow, then hands me the dragon. Look again. I turn it over, and my heart sinks. A hairline crack runs along the bottom edge, barely visible but definitely there. It wasn't there this morning. I don't understand, I murmur. It was perfect when I wrapped it. These things happen, Zine says smoothly. Fortunately, Victor is still interested. At a reduced price, of course, Victor adds. They name a figure, half of what Zine originally quoted. My stomach drops. That's not what we discussed, I protest. The market value changes with the condition, Zane explains, not quite meeting my eyes. This is still a very generous offer. Something feels wrong. The crack, the reduced price, the late-night meeting, it all smells of manipulation. But I need the money. And more than that, I need this to be over. Fine, I say finally. I accept. Victor nods, reaches into his jacket and pulls out an envelope. Cash, as requested. I didn't request cash. I look at Zane, who smiles reassuringly. Easier this way, he says. No paper trail. I take the envelope, count the money quickly. It's all there. We'll need you to sign this, Victor says, sliding a document across the table. A bill of sale, confirming the transaction. I scan it quickly. Standard language, nothing suspicious. I sign. Pleasure doing business, Victor says, carefully placing the dragon in a padded case. He nods to Zane and leaves without another word. Alone with Zane, I feel a strange emptiness. It's done. The dragon is gone. Drink to celebrate, Zane offers, producing a bottle of whiskey from a cabinet. I shake my head. I should go. At least let me drive you home. It's late, and that's a lot of cash to be carrying. I hesitate, then nod. The money feels heavy in my bag. In his car, a sleek, expensive model that smells of leather, Zine is quiet. Then, your grandmother would be proud. For selling her prized possession? For taking control? He glances at me. She always said you had more spine than your parents gave you credit for. You talked about me. She worried about you, said your parents had a way of making you doubt yourself. The accuracy of this observation is unsettling. She never told me that. There's a lot she didn't tell you. He pauses at a red light, like how your father tried to contest her will. My head snaps toward him. What? After she died, he filed paperwork claiming she wasn't of sound mind when she left her collection to you. The light changes, and he accelerates smoothly. It didn't work, obviously. That's not possible. He would have told me. Would he? Zane's voice is gentle. Think about it, Delilah. They hid her collection in a closet for years. They sold their apartment without telling you. They've made a habit of keeping you in the dark. My mind races. Could it be true? It would explain so much. Their dismissiveness about the antiques, their reluctance to let me see them. I don't know what to believe anymore, I admit. Believe what you see, not what they tell you. He pulls up to my building. There's more to this story than you know. I clutch my bag, suddenly eager to be alone. Thank you for the ride. Think about what I said. He hands me a card, different from the one he gave me before. And call this number if you decide you want to know more. It's my personal line. Inside my apartment, I count the money again, spreading it across my bed. Less than I'd hoped for, but still substantial, enough to make a difference. My phone buzzes, a text from my mother. We need your answer tomorrow. Please, Delilah. I ignore it and call Violet instead. It's done, I tell her when she answers. I sold it. How do you feel? I don't know. I stare at the money. Empty, maybe. Did it help? With the anger? Not really. I sigh. And now I have all this cash and no idea what to do with it. You could help your parents, she suggests carefully. After what they did, no way. What exactly did they do, Del? Sell their own apartment? Make bad financial decisions? It's not like they stole from you. Zine's words echo in my head. Actually, they might have. I tell her what he said about my father contesting the will, about hiding the collection from me. And you believe this guy you barely know over your own family? She asks when I finish. I don't know who to believe anymore. There's a knock at my door. I freeze. Someone's here, I whisper to Violet. It's almost midnight. Don't answer it, she says immediately. Another knock, more insistent. Delilah? A woman's voice. It's Yara, your aunt. My Aunt Yara. I haven't seen her in years. I'll call you back, I tell Violet and hang up. I approach the door cautiously. Aunt Yara. Please open up, it's important. I peer through the peephole. It's her, my mother's sister, looking tired and worried. I open the door. What are you doing here? We need to talk. Her eyes are serious. About Zane Hunt, and what he's really after. I let Yara in, watching as she surveys my small apartment with quick, assessing eyes. She looks older than I remember, her dark hair now streaked with grey, fine lines around her eyes that weren't there before. "How did you find me?" I ask, suddenly aware of the money still spread across my bed, visible through the open bedroom door. "Your mother called me." She moves toward the couch without waiting for an invitation. "She's worried about you." "My mother hasn't worried about me in years," I say, quickly gathering the cash and shoving it into a drawer before joining her. Yara sighs. "That's not true, but we don't have time to unpack your family drama right now." She leans forward. "Tell me about Zane Hunt." Something in her tone makes me hesitate. "Why?" "Because he's dangerous, Delilah. And if you've gotten involved with him, you're in trouble." I laugh, though nothing feels funny. "Dangerous? He's an antique dealer. He's a con man who targets vulnerable people with valuable collections." Her eyes are intense. "He approached your grandmother too, years ago, tried to convince her that her children were planning to steal her antiques." My heart beats faster. "And were they?" "Of course not." She looks exasperated. "Your mother and father may be many things, but they're not thieves." "Then why did Dad try to contest Grandma's will?" The question bursts out before I can stop it. Yara's expression shifts to surprise, then understanding. "He told you that, didn't he? Zayn?" I nod. "It's a lie. Your father never contested anything. He was the one who insisted her wishes be followed exactly." She shakes her head. "This is what Zayn does. He finds family friction and exploits it." "But how would he even know about our situation, about the apartment?" "Because he's been watching, waiting for an opportunity." She reaches for my hand. "Your grandmother rejected him, so he's been biding his time, knowing the collection would eventually pass to you." My mind races, trying to reconcile this with everything Zayn told me. He knew things, personal things about our family. He's done his research. People like him always do. She glances toward my bedroom. "You've already sold something to him, haven't you?" I nod slowly. "The Jade Dragon." Yara closes her eyes briefly. "How much did he pay you?" I tell her. She laughs bitterly. "That piece was worth 3 times that amount, at least." The room seems to tilt. "He said there was damage. Let me guess. Damage that wasn't there when you first showed it to him." The implication hits me like a physical blow. "You think he damaged it deliberately?" "I know he did. It's part of his playbook." She stands up, pacing. "Did you sign anything?" "Just a bill of sale. We need to see exactly what you signed. Do you have a copy?" I shake my head, feeling sick. "What's going on, Yara? What does he really want?" She stops pacing, her expression grave. "Your entire collection, and possibly your parents' remaining assets." "My parents don't have any assets left. They're broke." "They're not broke, Delilah. They're cash poor at the moment because they've invested everything in a property development in Arizona." She sits back down. "A development that's about to be approved, which will triple their investment." I stare at her. "But they said that they needed you to co-sign a mortgage." "That was true. Their liquid assets are tied up in the development." She sighs. "They should have explained better, but they were embarrassed about needing help, even temporarily." My head spins with this new information. "So, when Zane said, he was manipulating you, using your hurt feelings to turn you against your family." Her voice softens. "I'm not saying your parents handled things well. They didn't. But they're not the villain Zane made them out to be." I stand up abruptly, needing to move. "I don't understand. What does any of this have to do with my grandmother's collection?" "The collection is valuable, yes. But what Zane really wants is access to your family's finances." She follows me to the window. "The bill of sale you signed, I'm betting it contained language giving him rights to other pieces, maybe even authorizing him to act as your agent." Cold fear washes over me. I didn't read it carefully enough. Few people do. She puts a hand on my shoulder. "We need to contact your parents immediately. If Zane thinks you're on to him, there's no telling what he might do next." I pull away. "I can't face them, not after what I've done." "What you've done is fall for a con man's tricks. It happens to smart people all the time. Her voice is firm but kind. But right now, your family needs to present a united front. My phone buzzes, a text from Zane. Have you thought about what I said? I have buyers interested in the rest of your collection, time sensitive. I show it to Yara, whose expression darkens. He's accelerating his timeline. He must suspect something. She takes out her own phone. I'm calling your mother. Wait. I grab her wrist. I need to do this myself. She studies me, then nods. Okay, but do it now. My fingers hover over my mother's contact. Pride and hurt battle with fear and a growing sense of urgency. Another text from Zane appears. Also found some interesting documents regarding your parents' Arizona investment. We should talk. My blood runs cold. How could he know about that? He's going after their development deal, I say, showing Yara the message. Her face pales. Call them, now. This time I don't hesitate. The phone rings 3 times before my mother answers, her voice thick with sleep. Delilah? Is everything okay? No, I say, my voice steadier than I feel. We have a problem, a big one. What kind of problem? I take a deep breath. I think I've made a terrible mistake, and now someone's targeting all of us. There's a pause, then my mother says, We'll be at your apartment in 20 minutes. After I hang up, Yara squeezes my hand. You're doing the right thing, am I? I look at her, suddenly overwhelmed, because it feels like I've destroyed everything. Not everything, she says firmly. Not yet. My phone buzzes again. Not Zane this time, but Violet. Just got a weird call from someone asking about your grandmother's collection. Said they were from an insurance company, but wouldn't give a name. Be careful. I show Yara, who nods grimly. It's starting, she says. He's making his move. My parents arrive, looking like they've aged years and days. My father's face is drawn, my mother's eyes shadowed with exhaustion. The sight of them, vulnerable, worried, hits me harder than I expect. Yara, my mother says, embracing her sister. Thank you for calling. Don't thank me yet, Yara replies. We still have a situation to handle. My father turns to me, hesitating before speaking. Delilah, Later, I cut him off. We need to focus on Zane first. We gather around my small kitchen table, where I lay out everything. The sale of the dragon, the document I signed, Zane's messages, what Yara told me about his true intentions. I should have seen it, I finish, unable to meet their eyes. I was so angry at you both that I walked right into his trap. We gave you reason to be angry, my mother says quietly. We handled everything badly. My father nods, his usual defensiveness absent. We were ashamed of our financial situation, too proud to admit we needed help. And too thoughtless to consider what selling the apartment would mean to you, my mother adds. Their admission loosens something tight in my chest, but there's no time to process it. What exactly did you sign? My father asks. All business now. I try to remember the document's wording. It was a standard bill of sale, but there was language about him representing my interest for future sales. Future sales of what? My father presses. Just the antiques, or any assets. The realization hits me. It didn't specify. That's how he works, Yara explains. Vague language that can be interpreted broadly. My father stands abruptly. We need a lawyer, now. At 1 a.m, my mother asks. I know someone who'll take my call. He steps away to make the call. My phone buzzes with another text from Zane. Meeting tomorrow 9 a.m, bringing potential buyers for the entire collection. Big opportunity. I show it to Yara and my mother. He's moving fast, Yara says. Too fast. What does he know that we don't? My mother wonders. My father returns, his expression grim. The development approval is being announced tomorrow morning. Somehow he knows. How could he possibly? I begin. Doesn't matter, my father interrupts. What matters is stopping him before he can claim to represent our interests. The lawyer, my mother asks, meeting us at his office at 7. He looks at me. We need everything you have on Zane, and we need to get back the original document you signed. It's at his office, I say, the converted warehouse downtown. Then that's where we're going, my father says. Tonight. Breaking and entering, my mother asks, alarmed. Retrieving stolen property, he corrects. That document was obtained through fraud. I stare at him, seeing a side of my father I've never witnessed. Determined, almost fierce. You can't be serious. Deadly serious. His eyes meet mine. No one messes with my family. An hour later, we're parked a block from Zane's office building. My father has somehow procured a security uniform and badge. The lawyer will meet us afterward with restraining order paperwork ready to file, he explains. But first, we need that document. This is insane, I whisper. What if we get caught? We won't. He sounds confident. The night guard is an old friend. He'll look the other way for 15 minutes. Enough time for you to get in and out. Me? My voice rises. Why me? Because you've been there. You know which office is his. He hands me a small flashlight. And because you're the only one, he won't immediately call the police on if something goes wrong. He's right, and we all know it. Still, my hands shake as I take the flashlight. What about security cameras? I ask. Handled, my father says simply. I don't ask how. Some things are better not knowing. The night guard nods to my father as we approach, then deliberately turns away, focusing on a monitor that shows a different part of the building. 15 minutes, my father murmurs. Go. The hallways are dimly lit, emergency lights casting long shadows. My footsteps echo despite my attempt to move quietly. I find Zane's office easily. Corner unit, name on the door. Locked, of course. I pull out the credit card Yara gave me, remembering her quick tutorial on lockpicking. It takes 3 tries, but finally, the door clicks open. Inside, I switch on the flashlight, keeping the beam low. His desk is immaculate, files neatly arranged. I start opening drawers, searching for the document. Nothing. I move to the filing cabinet. Locked. I try the credit card trick again, but it's a different type of lock. The minutes tick by. Sweat beads on my forehead as I scan the room, looking for anywhere else he might keep important papers. Then I spot it, a safe built into the wall behind a generic landscape painting. Of course. I'm about to give up when I notice a folder on top of the cabinet labeled Hudson Project. My last name. I grab it, flipping it open. Inside are copies of documents, including the one I signed. But there's more. Printouts of emails between my parents and their development partners, financial projections, even a copy of their investment agreement. How did he get these? No time to wonder. I take photos of everything with my phone, then carefully replace the folder. Just as I'm about to leave, I notice something else. A small jade piece on his desk that looks eerily familiar. The dragon. My dragon. But not damaged anymore. I grab it, fury rising in my throat. The crack was fake, probably created with some kind of removable substance. Footsteps in the hallway freeze me in place. The door handle turns. I dive behind the desk just as the door opens. Light floods the room. I know you're in here, Delilah. Zane's voice, calm and almost amused. Did you really think I wouldn't have my own security system? He steps further into the room. Come out, we need to talk. I stand slowly, the dragon clutched in my hand, my phone with the incriminating photos in my pocket. You lied to me, I say, my voice steadier than I feel, about everything. He smiles, not denying it. Business is business, nothing personal. It feels pretty personal from where I'm standing. He notices the dragon in my hand. Ah, found that, did you? An unfortunate misunderstanding about its condition. Misunderstanding? I laugh bitterly. You created a fake crack to cheat me. I prefer to think of it as negotiation. He takes a step closer. The question is, what are you going to do now? Before I can answer, the office door bursts open again. My father stands there, security badge displayed. She's going to walk out of here, he says firmly. With me. Zane's smile doesn't falter as he looks between my father and me. Robert, what an unexpected pleasure. Step away from my daughter, my father says, his voice low and dangerous. Your daughter broke into my office. Zane counters smoothly. I could have her arrested. And I could have you investigated for fraud. My father steps further into the room. Which would you prefer? I clutch the dragon tighter, its edges digging into my palm. He has documents about your development deal, I tell my father. Private emails, financial projections, everything. Zane's expression flickers for the first time. Insurance, in case things went sideways. How did you get them? My father demands. You'd be surprised how careless people are with their passwords. Zane shrugs, especially when they use the same one for everything, like your wife's maiden name and your anniversary. My father's face darkens. You hacked our accounts. Such an ugly word. Zane turns to me. Delilah, be reasonable. You came to me, remember. I simply saw an opportunity. To manipulate me, I say. To turn me against my family. I merely provided information. You drew your own conclusions. His voice softens. We can still work together. That collection is worth a fortune with the right buyer. For a moment I see it, the temptation he's offering. Money, independence, power, everything I thought I wanted. No, I say firmly, we're done. Think carefully, he warns. That document you signed gives me certain rights. Walking away won't be simple. The document I signed under false pretenses. I pull out my phone, showing him the photos I took. The one where you misrepresented the value of my property, where you created fake damage to lower the price. His eyes narrow. Allegations, unprovable. Not with this. I hold up the dragon. The crack is gone. Funny how that works. And not with these, my father adds, holding up his own phone. Security footage from this office showing you damaging the piece before Delilah arrived for your meeting. Zane's composure cracks. Impossible. My security system has an external backup that transmits to the building's main server, my father finishes. A server my company installed 10 years ago. I stare at my father, seeing him clearly for perhaps the first time. Not just the distant, disapproving parent I've always resented, but a man with skills and connections I never bothered to understand. Here's what's going to happen, my father continues. You're going to return the money you paid my daughter. You're going to sign a statement acknowledging that your contract with her was obtained fraudulently, and you're going to delete every document you stole from our accounts. Or what? Zane challenges, though his confidence is visibly shaken. Or we press charges, I say, for fraud, theft, computer crimes, all of it. It would be your word against mine. It would be our evidence against your denials, my father corrects. And I don't think your other clients would appreciate learning about your methods. Zane is silent, calculating. I can almost see him running through scenarios, looking for an escape route. You have until morning to decide, my father says. Our lawyer will contact you at 9. He gestures for me to precede him out the door. I move past Zane, still clutching the dragon. Keep it, Zane says suddenly. Consider it a parting gift. I don't want your gifts, I reply, placing the dragon deliberately on his desk. I just want you out of my life. Outside, my mother and Yara are waiting anxiously in the car. As we approach, I see the relief wash over my mother's face. Did you get it? She asks. My father nods. And more. We have everything we need. The drive back to my apartment is quiet, each of us lost in thought. It's only when we're inside, the door locked behind us, that the adrenaline finally drains away, leaving me shaky and exhausted. I'm sorry, I say, the words inadequate but necessary. For believing him, for not trusting you. My mother takes my hand. We gave you reason to doubt us. That doesn't excuse what I almost did. What did you almost do? My father asks quietly. I look at him, deciding on honesty. I was going to use the money from the antiques to hurt you somehow, to make you feel as abandoned as I felt. He nods slowly. I understand that impulse better than you might think. You do? Why do you think I've worked so hard all these years? He asks. My father walked out when I was 12, left us with nothing. Everything I've done since has been to ensure security, to never be that vulnerable again. This revelation stuns me. My father has never spoken about his childhood. We should have told you about selling the apartment, my mother adds, about our financial situation. We were trying to protect you, but we ended up pushing you away instead. And I let my hurt feelings make me vulnerable to someone like Zane, I admit. We all made mistakes, Yara says, speaking for the first time since we returned. The question is, what happens now? My father clears his throat. The offer still stands, Delilah. We need a co-signer for the mortgage, but only if you want to help. I look at them, really look at them. My imperfect, proud, loving parents who made mistakes, but came running when I needed them. Who fought for me tonight without hesitation. I'll sign, I say, on one condition. Name it, my father says. No more secrets. We talk about things, the hard things, the embarrassing things, all of it. My mother smiles, tears in her eyes. Deal. And one more thing, I add. I want to be part of the development project, not just as a signature on a loan, but as a partner. My father looks surprised, then thoughtful. You want to work with us? I want to build something, I say, instead of tearing things down. He nods slowly. We can make that happen. Morning light begins to filter through my windows as we finalize our plans. The lawyer will meet with Zane. The documents will be signed. The development will move forward, with me as part of it. As my parents prepare to leave, my mother pauses at the door. Your grandmother would be proud of you, she says softly, not for the antiques or the money, but for finding your voice. After they're gone, I sit alone in my apartment, surrounded by the remaining pieces of my grandmother's collection. Each one tells a story, not just of its origin, but of her life, her choices, her legacy. I pick up a small music box, opening it to hear the familiar melody. Inside, tucked beneath the mechanism, is a note I've never noticed before. In my grandmother's handwriting, the true inheritance is not in these objects, but in the strength to forge your own path while remembering where you came from. I close the box, the music fading slowly into silence. For the first time in years, I feel neither adrift nor anchored to the past, but balanced perfectly between what was and what could be.
The words cut deeper than any knife could. Teaching? Really, Vanessa? With your potential, you could have been running a Fortune 500 company by now. Instead, you're stuck babysitting teenagers for minimum wage. I gripped my wine glass tighter, forcing a polite smile as my sister-in-law Charlene's perfectly manicured hand gestured dismissively across my brother-in-law's elaborate dining table. Another family dinner, another round of subtle, and not so subtle, jabs at my career choice. My name is Vanessa, and I've spent the last 8 years teaching high school English, helping shape young minds and watching students discover their potential. It's my passion, my calling. But to Charlene, it might as well be a personal insult. Actually, I started, my voice steadier than I felt. I just got 3 of my students into Ivy League schools this year. How adorable, Charlene cooed, her voice dripping with condescension. I just closed a 7-figure deal that'll transform the entire tech sector. But hey, 3 college acceptance letters are nice too. My husband Calvin reached under the table and squeezed my knee. Char, come on. Vanessa's making a real difference. Of course she is, little brother, Charlene interrupted, taking another sip of her wine. Someone has to teach the children of actual successful people. I excused myself to the bathroom, needing a moment to breathe. As I passed the kitchen, I heard Charlene's voice floating through the partially open door. I just don't understand what Calvin sees in her, she was saying to Travis, her husband. He could have married someone ambitious, someone who could have been his equal. Instead, he settled for a teacher. I froze, my heart pounding against my ribs. Honey, Travis replied, sounding tired, maybe not everyone measures success the same way you do. Please, success is success. There's a reason my salary has more zeros than hers. I slipped away before they could notice me, my cheeks burning. Instead of returning to the dining room, I grabbed my coat and car keys. "I'm not feeling well," I texted Calvin. "Headed home. Love you." 20 minutes later, I found myself in my classroom, surrounded by the familiar comfort of vocabulary posters and student artwork. My fingers traced the edge of a thank you card from Maria, a sophomore who'd finally found her voice through poetry. "Ms. Davis?" A voice startled me from the doorway. It was Caitlin, one of my former students who'd graduated last year and now volunteered as my teaching assistant. "Caitlin, what are you doing here so late?" She held up a stack of papers. "Finishing the layouts for the literary magazine. Are you okay? You look like I've been crying." I laughed weakly, wiping my eyes. "Just family stuff." Caitlin set down the papers and perched on one of the student desks. "Want to talk about it? You've listened to enough of my drama over the years." I told her about dinner, about Charlene, about the constant belittling of my chosen profession. As I spoke, Caitlin's expression grew increasingly indignant. "That's ridiculous," she burst out. "You're the reason I'm majoring in creative writing now. You're the reason half my class actually graduated. Remember Tommy? The kid everyone had given up on? He's in college now because you stayed after school for 3 months straight helping him with his essays." I smiled, remembering Tommy's graduation day, how he'd hugged me and whispered, "Thanks for not giving up on me, Ms. D." "Thanks, Caitlin. Sometimes I just need a reminder of why I do this." "Well, your sister-in-law sounds like she needs a reminder of what real success looks like," Caitlin said, her eyes sparking with an idea. "You know what would be amazing? If you could show her how many lives you've actually changed. Like, on a bigger scale." Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from Lucy, my best friend and fellow English teacher. "Emergency wine and venting session? I've got chocolate." "Rain check on the literary magazine?" I asked Caitlin. "I've got a date with a bottle of Merlot and my best friend." As I drove to Lucy's house, Charlene's words kept echoing in my head. But this time, instead of pain, I felt something else stirring. Determination. Maybe Caitlin was right. Maybe it was time to show my sister-in-law exactly what a mere teacher could accomplish. I just had no idea then how dramatically that determination would change my life, or how sweetly karma would eventually serve its justice. "You've got to be kidding me," Lucy said, nearly spitting out her wine as she read the email on my phone. "The National Education Reform Initiative wants to meet with you? Vanessa, this is huge." I snatched my phone back, rereading the email for the 10th time. It has to be a mistake. Why would they want me? "Oh, I don't know," Lucy rolled her eyes. "Maybe because your students have the highest college acceptance rate in the district? Or because that literacy program you started has spread to 3 other schools?" We were sprawled across Lucy's living room floor, surrounded by empty chocolate wrappers and half-graded papers. It had been 2 weeks since the disaster dinner with Charlene, and I'd thrown myself into work to avoid thinking about it. "The email mentioned something about educational ambassadors," I said, scrolling through it again. "Whatever that means." "It means," Lucy sat up straight, suddenly serious, "that someone important noticed what you're doing here. When's the meeting?" "Tomorrow at 4 p.m., but I can't." "If you say you can't go, I will personally drag you there myself," Lucy interrupted. "This could be your chance to make real change, beyond just our school." My phone buzzed with a text from Calvin. "Charlene's hosting a charity brunch next weekend. Please come. I'll make it up to you." Lucy read the text over my shoulder and groaned. "Perfect timing. You can tell her about your fancy meeting with Neri when she starts her usual teaching is glorified babysitting routine." "I'm not going to the brunch," I said firmly, "and I'm not sure about this meeting either. What if..." "What if what?" Lucy challenged. "What if you actually succeed? What if you get to help more students? What if you prove Charlene wrong about everything she's ever said about teachers?" The next day, I found myself in the gleaming lobby of a downtown office building, my heart hammering against my ribs. A tall man with salt and pepper hair approached, his smile warm and genuine. "Vanessa, I'm Xander Allen, Executive Director of Neri. Thank you for coming." He led me to a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. To my surprise, there were several other people already seated around the table. "These are some of our current educational ambassadors," Xander explained. They're here to share their experiences. For the next hour, I listened as teachers from across the country described their work, advocating for education reform, speaking at conferences, implementing innovative teaching methods. It was everything I'd ever dreamed of doing on a larger scale. "We've been following your work, Vanessa," Xander said finally. "The literacy program you developed, your success rates with at-risk students, it's exactly what we're looking for." "I'm just doing my job," I mumbled. "No," a woman across the table said firmly. "You're doing much more than that. You're changing lives." Xander slid a folder across the table. "We'd like you to join our ambassador program. You'd keep teaching, but also work with us to implement your methods in other schools. There's some travel involved, speaking engagements, policy meetings." My phone buzzed again. Another text from Calvin. "Charlene says she's sorry about dinner. Please come to brunch. She wants to make amends." I stared at the message, then at the folder in front of me. Something clicked into place. What exactly would this role involve? I heard myself asking. Xander's eyes lit up. "You'd be the face of educational reform in your region. We'd provide training, resources, support staff." "Support staff?" I interrupted, thinking of Caitlin. "Of course. You'll need help managing everything. The speaking engagements alone." "Speaking engagements?" "Conferences, fundraisers, charity events," he explained. "Our ambassadors are quite in demand." My heart skipped a beat. Charity events, like the ones Charlene was always bragging about attending. When would I start? "We have an orientation next month. After that, it's up to you how quickly you want to scale up your involvement." I took a deep breath, thinking about my students, about Caitlin's words, about Charlene's sneering comments, about all the other teachers out there fighting the same battles I was. "I'm in," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. Xander beamed. "Welcome aboard." Later that night, I finally replied to Calvin's text. "Tell Charlene I'll be at brunch, and tell her I have some exciting news to share." Lucy's response to my update was immediate. "OMG, yes. Please tell me I can be there when you tell Charlene." For the first time in years, I found myself looking forward to seeing my sister-in-law. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about rising above. And I was about to rise higher than Charlene ever imagined I could. And then she just sat there, mouth hanging open like a goldfish. Lucy cackled, mimicking Charlene's expression from the brunch. "I wish I'd recorded it." "The best part was Travis actually congratulating me," I said, sorting through a stack of business cards on my desk. "Did you see Charlene's face when he said he'd always admired teachers?" It had been 3 weeks since I'd dropped my ambassador news at Charlene's brunch, and the memory still made me smile. But now, reality was setting in. My classroom was becoming command central for what felt like an educational revolution. "Ms. Davis?" Caitlin poked her head in, now my official assistant thanks to NARY's funding. "The principal from Roosevelt High is on line 1. They want to know if you can present your literacy program next month." "Tell them yes, but..." I was interrupted by my phone buzzing, another email from Xander. "Vanessa, major opportunity. Annual Education Innovation Gala coming up. Need you as keynote speaker. Call me ASAP." Lucy peered over my shoulder. "Holy, do you know what this means?" Before I could answer, Caitlin rushed back in. "Ms. Davis, you're trending on Twitter. That video from your speech at the state education conference, it's everywhere." I grabbed my laptop and sure enough, there was my face, passionately explaining why we needed to revolutionize how we teach literature to modern students. The video had over 100,000 views. "Look at the comments," Caitlin scrolled excitedly. "This is the kind of teacher I wish I'd had." Finally, someone speaking truth about education reform. Where was she when I was failing English? My phone rang. Calvin. "Babe, have you seen the news? You're on the front page of the education section." "What? Which paper?" "All of them. Charlene just called me, actually. She seemed different. Asked if you'd consider speaking at her company's next corporate social responsibility event." I put the phone on speaker just as another call came through. Xander again. "I'll call him back," I told Calvin. What did you tell Charlene? That you're booked solid for the next 3 months, which, by the way, we need to talk about. I barely see you anymore. Guilt gnawed at my stomach. He was right. Between teaching, speaking engagements, and program development, I was spreading myself thin. I know, I'm sorry. Dinner tonight? Just us? Actually, Calvin hesitated. Charlene and Travis invited us over. She insisted, said something about wanting to properly acknowledge your achievements. I muted the phone. Lucy, what do you think? Trap? Absolutely, she nodded. But go anyway. Show her the new you. I unmuted. Okay, tell them we'll come. That evening, Charlene's mansion felt different. Or maybe I was the one who'd changed. Her usual intimidating aura seemed diminished somehow. Vanessa! She air-kissed my cheeks. You look professional. Is that a Diane von Furstenberg? Target, actually, I smiled. But thanks. Travis appeared with drinks. Vanessa, I showed that video of yours to our board. They were impressed. Very impressed. Charlene's smile tightened slightly. Yes, well, who knew teaching could be so influential? Though I suppose it's not really teaching anymore, is it? More like consulting. Oh, I'm still in the classroom every day, I corrected her. That's non-negotiable. It's where the real work happens. But surely with your new platform, Charlene pressed, you'll eventually move into full-time speaking and consulting? The money alone is nothing compared to seeing a student's face when they finally understand Shakespeare, I finished. Or helping a kid who hates reading discover their favorite book. Travis nodded approvingly. That's what I love about your approach, Vanessa. You're not just talking about change, you're actually doing it. Charlene's phone buzzed. She glanced at it and nearly dropped her wine glass. Everything okay? Calvin asked. Yes, just... She looked at me strangely. The Education Innovation Gala. My company is one of the main sponsors, and they just announced this year's keynote speaker. My phone buzzed at the same moment. Xander's message. It's official! You're our keynote speaker! Charlene's face did that goldfish thing again. You're the keynote speaker? Looks like it, I said, trying to keep my voice casual while my heart raced. Maybe we can collaborate on something. After all, education and corporate responsibility should go hand in hand, right? The look on her face was priceless, a mix of shock, confusion, and something else. Something that looked almost like respect. As we left that night, I heard Travis say to Charlene, maybe it's time to rethink our company's approach to education initiatives. Charlene's response was too quiet to hear, but her expression stayed with me. For the first time, I realized this wasn't just about proving her wrong anymore. It was about something bigger, something that could actually change lives, including just maybe hers. No, no, no! I crumpled another draft of my speech and tossed it into the growing pile by my desk. This isn't right either. Ms. Davis, Caitlin said gently, picking up the discarded paper. This is the 12th version. The gala's tomorrow night. And Charlene will be in the front row, probably with her entire corporate board, I groaned. Everything has to be perfect. Lucy burst into my classroom, waving her phone. Have you seen the guest list? It just leaked online. Every major education reform advocate in the country will be there, plus half of Silicon Valley's tech giants. My stomach lurched. Not helping, Lucy. Sorry, she perched on my desk. But seriously, you've got this. Just talk about what you know. What you love. That's what I've been trying to tell her, Caitlin agreed. Show them what you showed us. My phone buzzed. A text from Calvin. Charlene just called. Says she's giving a speech too. Something about corporate investment in education. You okay? Perfect, I muttered. Just perfect. Wait, Lucy grabbed my phone. She's speaking too? That wasn't on the program. Last-minute addition, Caitlin confirmed, checking her tablet. Right before your keynote. I stood up, pacing the classroom. She's going to try to steal my thunder, make it all about corporate funding and bottom lines. Then don't let her, Lucy said firmly. Show them what real education looks like. A knock at the door made us all jump. It was Travis. Sorry to interrupt, he said, looking uncomfortable. I thought you should know. Charlene's been practicing her speech all week. She's nervous. Nervous? I couldn't hide my surprise. Charlene? Look, Travis stepped inside, closing the door. She won't admit it, but your success has shaken her. The board's been talking about redirecting funds from her tech initiatives to education programs like yours. Is that why she added herself to the speaker list? Lucy asked. Travis nodded. She's trying to prove she's still relevant. But between us, I think she's fighting a losing battle. After he left, I sat back down at my desk, staring at the scattered speech drafts. Ms. Davis? Caitlin picked up one of the papers. Remember when Tommy was struggling with his college essay? What did you tell him? To write from his heart, I said automatically. To tell his truth. So maybe, she smiled, you should take your own advice? That night, I sat at my kitchen table, laptop open, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Calvin brought me tea and kissed my forehead. You know what's funny? He said. Charlene used to practice her speeches in front of me when we were kids. She'd get so worked up she'd make herself sick. I looked up. Really? Yeah, she's always been terrified of failure. That's why she pushes so hard, acts so, well, you know. Something clicked. I started typing, the words finally flowing naturally. The next evening, I stood backstage at the gala, adjusting my dress, a simple but elegant black number that Lucy had helped me choose. Caitlin appeared with water and a reassuring smile. Full house, she reported. And guess who's sitting right next to Charlene? Xander and the entire Nary board. I peeked through the curtain. Charlene was there, looking immaculate as always, but her hands were shaking slightly as she arranged and rearranged her note cards. The program began. I half listened to the opening speeches, my heart pounding. Then Charlene was introduced. She strode to the podium, every inch the confident executive. But I noticed the slight tremor in her voice as she began. Education is about numbers, she started. Return on investment, measurable outcomes. As business leaders, we need to approach education like any other business venture. I watched the audience's reactions. Some nodded, but others shifted uncomfortably. This wasn't what they'd come to hear. 5 minutes, Caitlin whispered, squeezing my hand. I looked down at my speech. The real one, the true one. Not about numbers or outcomes or corporate buzzwords. About Tommy and Maria and every student who'd ever sat in my classroom believing they weren't good enough. And now, the announcer's voice boomed, our keynote speaker, a teacher who's revolutionizing education one classroom at a time. Charlene returned backstage, passing close enough that I caught the scent of her expensive perfume. For a moment, our eyes met. I saw something there I'd never seen before. Fear. Good luck, she whispered, surprising us both. I took a deep breath and walked toward the podium. The spotlight hit me, and I could feel hundreds of eyes watching, waiting. When I was a little girl, I began, my voice strong and clear, I believed that books could change the world. The truth, my truth, was about to take center stage. And for once, I wasn't afraid of Charlene hearing it. When I was a little girl, I believed that books could change the world. Today, standing in my classroom, I know they do. My voice carried across the hushed auditorium. But it's not just about books. It's about the student who stays after class to tell you they finally understand poetry. It's about the kid who swears they hate reading until they find that one story that changes everything. From the podium, I could see Charlene in the front row, her face unreadable. Next to her, Xander was leaning forward, completely engaged. Last month, a student asked me why I became a teacher instead of choosing a real career. Scattered laughs rippled through the audience. I told her about Tommy. I caught Caitlin's eye off stage. She nodded encouragingly. Tommy was the kid everyone had given up on. Failing grades, behavioral issues, zero interest in education. But one day, I caught him drawing elaborate comics in his notebook instead of taking notes. The room was silent now, hanging on every word. Instead of confiscating his notebook, I asked him to tell me his story. It turned out he had a whole universe in his head. Complex characters, intricate plot lines. So I made him a deal. He could write his story, but he had to learn proper grammar and structure to do it justice. I saw Charlene shift in her seat, her fingers drumming nervously on her armrest. Today, Tommy's studying creative writing in college. His first graphic novel comes out next year. I paused, letting that sink in. That's what education really is. Not test scores or ROI metrics, but recognizing potential in unexpected places. Travis reached over and squeezed Charlene's hand. She pulled away. We talk about education reform like it's about systems and statistics. But real reform happens one student at a time, one breakthrough at a time. It happens when we stop treating education like a business and start treating it like what it is, a transformation. The next 10 minutes flew by as I shared more stories. Maria finding her voice through poetry, James discovering his love for science, Sarah realizing she could be the first in her family to go to college. These students don't need our pity or our corporate initiatives, I said, looking directly at Charlene now. They need our belief in their potential. They need teachers who see them, who fight for them, who refuse to let them be reduced to numbers on a spreadsheet. Charlene's face had gone pale. She reached for her water glass with a shaking hand. So yes, we need reform. But not the kind that comes from boardrooms and bottom lines. We need reform that starts in classrooms, that recognizes teaching isn't just a job, it's a calling. And every time we dismiss it as just teaching or glorified babysitting, we fail not just our educators, but our future. The silence in the room was electric. I stand before you not just as a teacher, but as proof that one person who believes in education can create ripples that become waves. Imagine what we could do if we all believed. I stepped back from the podium as the room erupted in applause. People were standing, cheering. Xander was beaming. Travis was on his feet, clapping enthusiastically. Charlene remained seated, staring straight ahead. As I made my way backstage, Caitlin rushed to hug me. That was incredible. Did you see their faces? Lucy appeared, wiping tears from her eyes. You destroyed it, and Charlene looked like she was going to... Excuse me. A quiet voice interrupted us. We turned to find Charlene standing there, looking smaller somehow without her usual confident posture. Vanessa, she started, then stopped. For the first time ever, she seemed at a loss for words. The board wants to meet with you, she finally managed. They're talking about redirecting our entire education funding initiative. They want you to lead it. The irony wasn't lost on any of us. The woman who had dismissed my career choice for years was now watching it eclipse her own. Charlene, I began, but she held up a hand. Don't. Just don't. She turned and walked away quickly, her heels clicking on the polished floor. Calvin found me moments later, wrapping me in a tight hug. That was amazing, babe. But are you okay? I watched Charlene's retreating figure, remembering Travis's words about her fear of failure. I think I finally understand something about your sister. Ms. Davis, Caitlin called out. The press wants photos, and Xander says there are some people you need to meet. As I moved to follow her, I caught a glimpse of Charlene through a side door, sitting alone in an empty conference room, her face in her hands. The victory I'd imagined feeling suddenly tasted different. This wasn't the end I'd expected. But then again, maybe it wasn't the end at all. Coming, I called to Caitlin, straightening my shoulders. Whatever happened next, I knew one thing for certain. I'd found my voice, and I wasn't going to stop using it. The board wants to move forward immediately, Xander announced, sliding a thick folder across the conference table. Full funding, complete autonomy, and you'll be heading the entire education initiative. I glanced at the salary figure and nearly choked on my coffee. It was more money than I'd make in 5 years of teaching. And Charlene? I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. Reassigned to tech development, Xander replied. She's not taking it well. It had been 3 days since the gala, and I hadn't heard a word from my sister-in-law. Calvin said she wasn't returning his calls either. Speaking of Charlene, Lucy chimed in from her spot by the window. You might want to see this. She handed me her phone. On the screen was Charlene's latest LinkedIn post. After careful consideration, I'm stepping down from my position to pursue other opportunities. She quit? I looked up, shocked. But she loves her job. Loved, Xander corrected. Things change. People change. My phone buzzed. A text from Travis. Can we meet? It's about Charlene. An hour later, I found Travis at a small coffee shop downtown, looking exhausted. "She hasn't left the house in days," he said, stirring his untouched latte. "Just sits in her home office, staring at her awards wall. I've never seen her like this." "I never meant to." "I know," he interrupted, "but you need to understand something about Charlene. Everything she's ever done has been about proving herself. Her parents always told her she had to be the best, had to win at everything. When you came along, I threatened that," I finished. "You didn't just threaten it. You completely upended her worldview. She built her identity around corporate success, around being the one who made it. Now..." My phone buzzed again. "Caitlin. Emergency at school. Need you ASAP." I found Caitlin in my classroom, surrounded by students. To my surprise, they were all former graduates, including Tommy. "What's going on?" "We heard about the new position," Tommy said. "About you maybe leaving teaching." "How did you—" "Social media," another student, Maria, cut in. "Everyone's talking about it, about how you're going to run this huge corporate program." "But you can't leave," Tommy added. "Who's going to help other kids like me?" I looked at their faces, these students who'd become so much more than just names on a roster. Then I thought about Charlene, sitting alone in her home office, surrounded by empty achievements. "Ms. Davis?" Caitlin stepped forward. "Remember what you told me when I was struggling with college applications? Success isn't about winning, it's about making a difference." My phone rang. Calvin. "Babe, you need to come to Charlene's, now." 20 minutes later, I stood in Charlene's pristine living room, watching my sister-in-law pace back and forth. "I don't need your pity," she snapped before I could speak. "I don't need anything from you." "Good," I replied. "Because I'm not here to offer pity. I'm here to offer a partnership." She stopped pacing. "What?" "The program needs both of us," I said. "Your business expertise, my education experience. Together, we could create something revolutionary." "Why would you want to work with me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "After everything I've said, everything I've done, because you were right about one thing. Education needs to change, but not through corporate takeovers or standardized metrics. Through understanding, through connection, through actually caring," she finished, sinking onto her designer couch. "Like you do." "Like we both could," I corrected, "if we worked together." She was quiet for a long moment. I wouldn't know where to start. "Start by coming to my classroom tomorrow. See what real education looks like. Then we'll talk about how to scale it." "Your classroom?" She looked terrified at the prospect. "Unless you're scared," I challenged, seeing a familiar spark return to her eyes. "Fine," she straightened her shoulders. "But I'm not sitting in those tiny desks." As I left her house, Travis caught up with me in the driveway. "Whatever you said in there," he smiled. "It worked. She's already on her laptop researching education statistics." My phone buzzed one last time. Xander. "Board meeting tomorrow. Need your decision on the position." I looked back at Charlene's house, then typed my response. "I'll take it with conditions. First, I keep teaching. Second, I want Charlene as my co-director." The reply was immediate. "Bold move. Why?" I thought about Tommy and Maria, about Charlene's empty awards wall, about the difference between winning and succeeding. "Because sometimes," I typed, "the best revenge is showing someone a better way to live." "Ms. Davis, I think your sister-in-law is having a breakdown," Caitlin whispered, peering through the classroom door. Charlene stood in the hallway, designer suit perfectly pressed, looking like she might bolt at any second. It was her first day observing my class, and she'd already rescheduled twice. "Deep breaths," I said, opening the door. "Ready?" "This is ridiculous," Charlene muttered, but followed me inside. "I haven't been in a high school classroom since you were busy being class president and valedictorian," I finished. Calvin told me. 25 students looked up as we entered, curiosity written across their faces. "Everyone, this is Ms. Mitchell. She'll be observing today as part of our new education initiative." "Is she the corporate lady who used to make you cry?" a voice piped up from the back. Charlene flinched. I bit back a smile. "Jake, what have we said about appropriate questions?" Sorry, Ms. Davis. Sorry, Ms. Mitchell. I launched into my lesson on The Great Gatsby, watching Charlene from the corner of my eye. She sat rigid in her chair, taking notes on her tablet, but I could see her expression changing as the class progressed. So, I asked the students, why does Gatsby throw those elaborate parties? To show off his money, one student called out. To get Daisy's attention, another added. To prove he's worthy, Charlene suddenly spoke up. The room fell silent. He's trying to prove he belongs in their world, that he's just as good as them, better even. The students stared at her. She cleared her throat awkwardly. I mean, that's just my interpretation. No, you're right, Maria said thoughtfully. It's like when people post their achievements on social media, trying to prove something to everyone else. Or like when my mom works extra shifts to buy designer clothes she can't afford, another student added. I watched Charlene's face as recognition dawned. These weren't just random teenagers, they were insightful young people making connections she'd never considered. The discussion continued, growing more animated. To my surprise, Charlene joined in several times, offering perspectives that actually resonated with the students. After class, she remained seated while the students filed out. That was unexpected, she said finally. The part where teenagers can think deeply, or the part where you enjoyed teaching? She shot me a look, but there was no malice in it. Both, I suppose. She stood up, smoothing her skirt. I need to show you something. 20 minutes later, we sat in her home office. She pulled up a presentation on her laptop. I've been working on this since our talk, she said. A complete restructuring of the education initiative. Less focus on metrics, more on actual student engagement. See these numbers? I leaned in, surprised by the depth of her research. She'd analyzed everything from student participation rates to long-term career success correlations. This could work, I said slowly. But we'd need to keep it grounded in real classroom experience, she finished. I know, that's why... She hesitated. That's why I want to teach one class. I nearly fell out of my chair. You what? Just one, maybe a business elective or something. I need to understand this from the inside. Before I could respond, Calvin burst in. There you are. Have you seen the news? He held up his phone. The headline read, Corporate Executive Trades Boardroom for Classroom, a new model for education reform. How did they... Charlene started. One of the students must have posted about you being in class, I realized. Social media... This is perfect, Calvin exclaimed. The board will love it. Real commitment to understanding education from the ground up. Charlene looked pale. But I haven't actually agreed to... Yes, you have, I interrupted. I saw your face in that classroom today. You felt it, didn't you? The moment when everything clicks for a student, when they make connections you never expected? She was quiet for a long moment. I forgot, she finally said. Forgot what? What it feels like to learn something new, to be excited about understanding. She turned to her laptop, closing the presentation. I've spent so long trying to prove I'm the best, I forgot what it feels like to just... grow. Well, I smiled. Lucky for you, I know a great teacher who can help with that. Very funny, she rolled her eyes, but she was smiling too. But if we're doing this, we're doing it right. I want to understand everything. Curriculum development, student assessment, classroom management. Careful, I warned. You might actually end up loving it. Maybe, she admitted. But if anyone at my country club asks, I'm conducting intensive field research. As we left her office, I caught sight of her awards wall. Something was different. You took down your CEO of the Year plaque, I noticed. Replaced it with something better, she said quietly. In its place hung a simple thank you card from my class, signed by all the students. Sometimes I realized the biggest victories come not from defeating your enemies, but from turning them into allies. And now, please welcome back to the stage our co-directors of the National Education Innovation Program. The applause thundered through the auditorium as Charlene and I walked onto the stage together. This time, neither of us was trying to outshine the other. Last time I stood here, Charlene began, I talked about ROI and performance metrics. I was wrong. She paused, looking out at the packed audience. My sister-in-law taught me that real education isn't about numbers. It's about transformation. and not just for the students. I stepped forward. When we launched this program, people said it couldn't work. A teacher and a corporate executive, oil and water. Scattered laughter rippled through the crowd. But that's exactly why it did work. Because real change happens when we stop competing and start collaborating. Speaking of collaboration, Charlene smiled, we have a surprise guest. Tommy? Tommy walked onto the stage, holding his published graphic novel. The audience burst into applause. His story had become somewhat legendary in education circles. This book, he held it up, exists because Ms. Davis saw potential where everyone else saw a problem student. And now, thanks to the program she and Ms. Mitchell created, thousands of other students are finding their own paths. From the front row, Lucy wiped away tears while Caitlin, now our program director, beamed proudly. But we're not here to talk about past successes, I continued. We're here to announce the next phase. Charlene stepped forward. Starting next semester, I'm leaving the corporate world entirely. Gasps echoed through the hall. I'll be teaching full-time while continuing to co-direct this program. Because you can't transform education from the outside. You have to be in the trenches. The audience erupted. In the front row, Travis was grinning ear to ear. Next to him, Calvin looked like he might burst with pride. My sister-in-law used to mock my career choice, I said, turning to Charlene. Now she steals my lesson plans. Only because yours needs serious updating, she shot back, making the audience laugh. Who still teaches Shakespeare without digital integration? Says the woman who had to ask what TikTok was last week. Our playful banter wasn't just for show, it was who we'd become. Somewhere between classroom observations and late-night curriculum planning sessions, we'd found not just respect, but genuine friendship. After the presentation, we gathered in my classroom, the same room where this journey had started. Lucy had arranged a small celebration, complete with cheap wine and paper cups. Remember when you used to hide in here crying after family dinners? Lucy asked, passing me a cup. Now she hides in here planning lessons, Calvin laughed, wrapping an arm around my waist. I do not hide, Charlene protested, walking in with Travis. I strategically retreat to optimize lesson effectiveness. Still can't talk like a normal person, Travis teased, earning a playful swat from his wife. Caitlin arrived with Tommy and Maria, now both working for our program while pursuing their degrees. Ms. Davis, Tommy said, remember when you caught me drawing comics in class? Remember when you said you'd never read Shakespeare? I countered. Now look at him, Maria grinned, teaching creative writing to middle schoolers. Speaking of teaching, Charlene cut in, I need help with my first solo lesson plan. These teenagers are terrifying. Not so easy, is it? I smirked. What happened to teaching is just glorified babysitting? I was an idiot, she admitted freely, but at least I'm a teachable idiot. The best kind, Travis kissed her cheek. Looking around the room at these people who'd become so much more than colleagues or even family, I felt something settle into place. This wasn't the revenge I'd originally wanted. It was better. Hey, Charlene touched my arm. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I deserved it. That's what teachers do, I smiled. We see potential, even when it's hiding behind designer suits and corporate jargon. And sometimes, she added softly, we learn more than we teach. The evening wound down, but before everyone left, Tommy insisted on one last toast. To Ms. Davis and Ms. Mitchell, he raised his cup, for showing us that the best stories aren't about winning or losing, they're about growing. And to second chances, Charlene added, meeting my eyes, both giving and receiving them. As everyone clinked their paper cups, I looked at my classroom walls, now covered with a mix of student artwork and corporate achievement certificates, Shakespeare quotes, and business strategy flowcharts. It wasn't what I'd imagined when I'd first sought revenge against Charlene. It was infinitely better, because sometimes the best revenge isn't about making someone fall, it's about helping them rise in a different direction. And in the process, rising yourself. Ready for tomorrow? Charlene asked as we gathered our things. Always, I smiled. We've got lessons to plan, minds to open, lives to change, she finished. And that, really, was what it had been about all along.
The scent of cinnamon and pine needles filled my studio as I hung the last ornament on my makeshift Christmas tree, really just a collection of my paint-splattered easels arranged in a triangle, draped with twinkling lights. I stepped back, admiring how the golden glow transformed my usually chaotic workspace into something magical. This would be perfect for tomorrow's family Christmas gathering, where I'd finally show them my art wasn't just a hobby. My name is Alina, and I'd spent the last 3 years building my dream. This small but vibrant art studio in downtown Boston, far from my family's mansion in Beacon Hill. The space wasn't much, but it was mine. My phone buzzed. Mom. Alina, dear, your father and I need to speak with you. Now. Mom, it's Christmas Eve. I'm preparing for tomorrow's. This can't wait. We're outside your studio. My stomach dropped at her tone. I hurried downstairs, where my parents' black Mercedes stuck out like a sore thumb among the neighborhood's beat-up Hondas and Toyotas. Darling, Mom said as I opened the door, her Hermes scarf wrapped tight against the December chill. This really can't go on. Dad stood behind her, his usual commanding presence somehow more severe in the dim streetlight. Come inside, I said, leading them up the narrow staircase. I've decorated for tomorrow. I thought maybe we could have the family gathering here this year, show everyone what I've been working on. That's precisely what we need to discuss, Dad cut in, his voice sharp. This experiment of yours has gone far enough. I switched on the studio lights, illuminating my latest pieces, large, bold canvases exploring themes of freedom and constraint. Mom visibly winced at a particularly vibrant abstract. The Stevensons asked about you at the club yesterday, Mom said, perching herself on the edge of my paint-stained couch. I had to lie about where you were. Do you know how humiliating that was? I don't understand. I'm working, creating art. Creating embarrassment, Dad interrupted. The Rice name means something in this city. We can't have our daughter playing artist in some rundown neighborhood. Playing artist? My voice cracked. I sold 3 pieces last month. I'm having a show in February. Enough. Dad pulled out his phone, showing me a real estate listing. We've found a buyer for this space, above market value. The money will help you start fresh, perhaps in marketing or PR. Something respectable. The room started spinning. You're trying to sell my studio? You can't. The lease is in my name. We've spoken to the building owner, Mom said softly, as if gentleness could soften the blow. He's willing to break your lease, given our influence. This is my life, I whispered, touching one of my canvases. My work. It's time to grow up, Alina, Dad said. You have until New Year's to decide. Either sell this place and come back to the family business, or what? Mom stood, straightening her Chanel jacket. Or we'll have to distance ourselves completely. No more trust fund, no family connections, no support. You'll be on your own. The Christmas lights twinkled mockingly in the silence that followed. You're asking me to choose between my passion and my family? My voice was steady, surprising even myself. We're asking you to choose a proper future, Dad corrected. The Rice name. Is that all you care about? The family name? Don't be dramatic, darling, Mom sighed. We're trying to help you. I looked around my studio, at the paint-splattered floors, the half-finished canvases, the Christmas decorations I'd hung with such hope just hours ago. Then at my parents, standing there in their expensive clothes, trying to erase everything I'd built. Get out. Excuse me? Dad's face reddened. I said get out, both of you. If you can't support who I am, what I love, then maybe we shouldn't be family at all. Alina, think about what you're saying, Mom pleaded. I have thought about it every day for the past 3 years while you've been ashamed of me. Now please leave. They left without another word, the door closing with a final click. I stood there, surrounded by my art, my dreams, my rebellion, until the tears finally came. My phone buzzed again. Yolanda, my best friend. Still on for Christmas cookies tonight? Through blurry eyes, I typed, Change of plans. Bring wine instead. I grabbed my coat and headed for the door, pausing to look back at my makeshift Christmas tree. The lights still twinkled, but now they seemed to shine with a different purpose. Not celebration, but defiance. 3 months after Christmas, I was still finding tinsel in odd corners of my studio. Each sparkly reminder felt like a tiny knife to the gut. I hadn't heard from my parents since that night, though their ultimatum had been carried out with surgical precision. Bank accounts closed, credit cards cancelled, my name quietly removed from every family registry. Earth to Alina! Yolanda waved her hand in front of my face, splattering drops of coffee on my workspace. You're doing that 1,000-yard stare again. Sorry, I mumbled, turning back to my canvas. Just thinking about rent. Stop. Yolanda put down her mug and grabbed my shoulders. You sold 2 pieces last week. Rent is covered. Now focus on finishing these for the spring showcase. I nodded, picking up my brush again. The piece I was working on was different from my usual style. Darker, more intense. Raw emotion bleeding through every brush stroke. Holy shit, Yolanda whispered, stepping back to look at the canvas. This is intense. Like looking straight into someone's soul while it's breaking. Too much? No, it's perfect. People are going to... The studio door opened, cutting her off. A man in an impeccably tailored suit stood in the doorway, looking oddly at home despite the paint-splattered surroundings. I apologize for interrupting, he said, stepping inside. The gallery downstairs said I might find Alina here. That's me, I said, wiping my hands on my already stained jeans. Harrison Matthews. He extended his hand. I saw your piece, Fractured Inheritance, at the Small Works show last month. My heart stopped. Harrison Matthews was one of the most influential art collectors in New England. I'd read about him in every major art publication. I've been following your work since then, he continued, walking around my studio. Your evolution over the past few months is remarkable. He stopped in front of my current piece, studying it intently. There's pain here, he said quietly, but also defiance, strength. He turned to face me. Would you tell me about it? It's personal, I managed. The best art always is, he smiled. That's why I'm here. I'm curating a special exhibition at the Gardner Museum next month. Theme is breaking patterns. I'd like to feature your work. Yolanda squeaked behind me. The Gardner? I breathed. But that's where your mother hosts her annual charity gala. Harrison's eyes twinkled. Yes, I'm aware of your connection to the Rice family. In fact, I find it adds a fascinating layer to your work. My hands started shaking. They wouldn't want me there. Art isn't about want, Ms. Rice. It's about need. And right now, the art world needs voices like yours, authentic, unflinching, real. He pulled out a business card, placing it on my workbench. Think about it. The exhibition opens May 15th. I'd need at least 3 pieces, including this one. He gestured to my current work. Your family's gala is the following week, I believe? I nodded, unable to speak. Perfect timing, wouldn't you say? He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Alina, don't let them dim your light. Some of the greatest art comes from breaking free of gilded cages. After he left, Yolanda and I stood in stunned silence. Did that just happen? She finally whispered. I can't do it, I said, sinking onto my paint-stained couch. Show my work there, they'll see it as an attack. Good, Yolanda sat beside me. They deserve it. They tried to buy your silence, your compliance. Show them what happens when you try to cage an artist. I picked up Harrison's card, running my finger over the embossed lettering. It would destroy them, I murmured. Socially, professionally. Mom's been on the museum's board for decades, and now you have the chance to show them exactly what they tried to throw away. Yolanda grabbed my shoulders again. This isn't just an opportunity, Alina. It's justice. I stood up, walking to my easel. The painting stared back at me, all sharp edges and bleeding colors, beauty born from pain. "You're right," I said, picking up my brush. "But if I'm going to do this, I'm going to need bigger canvases." Yolanda grinned, already pulling out her phone. "I'll call Marco at the supply store, and then we're getting champagne. Lots of it." As she dialed, I studied my work with new eyes. Each brushstroke now felt like a word in a letter I'd been trying to write for months. Maybe it was time to stop hiding my truth behind polite silence. My phone buzzed, a text from Harrison. "The world is ready for your voice. Are you ready to use it?" I took a deep breath and typed back one word. "Yes." "More red," Harrison said, studying my latest piece. "The emotion's there, but it needs to bleed more." I mixed cadmium red with a touch of burnt umber, letting the colors swirl together like wine. Over the past month, my studio had transformed into a battlefield of massive canvases, each one larger and more confrontational than the last. "Better," he nodded as I added the darker shade. "Now tell me again what this piece represents." "The suffocation of expectations," I said, stepping back. "The weight of a name that feels more like a prison than a legacy." "Good. Make them feel that weight." The studio door creaked open, and a familiar figure stepped in. Uncle Sullivan, his silver hair disheveled as always, looking completely out of place in his worn leather jacket among my pristine canvases. "Well," he whistled, "looks like little Alina's not so little anymore." "Uncle Sully?" I nearly dropped my brush. "How did you—" "Your friend Yolanda told me where to find you." He approached slowly, taking in each painting. "Reese, your mother. She's been telling everyone you're finding yourself in Europe." Harrison raised an eyebrow. "And you didn't believe that?" "Please," Sullivan scoffed. "I've been the family disappointment for 30 years. I know what exile looks like." He turned to me. "Though you're handling it with considerably more style than I did." "Mr. Matthews," I said, "this is my Uncle Sullivan. He's the only one in the family who ever supported my art." "Ah, another black sheep?" Harrison smiled. "Those are always my favorite members of any family." Sullivan stopped in front of my centerpiece, a massive canvas depicting a golden cage with broken bars, birds escaping into a blood-red sky. They're talking about you, you know," he said quietly, "at their precious social clubs. Your cousin Genesis keeps dropping hints about your unfortunate choices." "Genesis?" I hadn't thought about my cousin in months. "What's she saying?" "Nothing directly, just enough to make sure everyone knows the Rice family is disappointed." He turned to face me. "But that's not why I'm here." From his jacket, he pulled out a worn leather-bound book. "Your grandmother's journal. Found it while cleaning out my attic." "Mom's mother?" I took the book carefully. "Read it," he said, "especially the entries from 1962. Might help with—" He gestured to my paintings. "All this." I opened the journal to a random page, my grandmother's elegant handwriting filling the yellowed paper. "They say a woman's duty is to uphold the family name. But what if the name itself is built on silence?" "She wanted to be a writer," Sullivan explained. "Wrote 3 novels before your grandfather made her stop. Said it wasn't proper for his wife to tell stories." Harrison stepped forward, suddenly interested. "Did she ever publish?" "Under a pen name?" Sullivan nodded. "After he died. Won some awards too, but by then Reese was grown, already married to Bennett, already obsessed with being proper." He touched the journal gently. "Your grandmother died thinking she'd failed as a mother because Reese turned out exactly as your grandfather wanted." My hands shook as I held the journal. "Why are you showing me this?" "Because you need to understand this fight you're fighting. It's not new. It's in your blood." He looked at my paintings again. "But you've got something your grandmother didn't have. You've got guts, kid, and timing." Harrison cleared his throat. "The exhibition opens in 2 weeks. The gala's the week after." "I know," Sullivan grinned. "Already got my ticket. Wouldn't miss it for the world." They'll try to stop it, I said. Once they find out, let them try. Sullivan's voice hardened. I've watched that family crush too many dreams. It's time someone showed them what happens when art refuses to be silenced. He headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Alina? Genesis is having lunch at Stephanie's tomorrow. Noon. Just thought you might want to know. After he left, Harrison and I stood in silence, looking at my grandmother's journal. Well, Harrison finally said, I believe we just found the missing piece for your exhibition. What do you mean? Your grandmother's words combined with your art. He gestured expansively. It's not just your story anymore. It's a legacy of rebellion. I opened the journal again, reading another entry. Art isn't proper. Art isn't polite. Art is truth, and truth is always dangerous to those who build their lives on lies. I need more canvas, I said, already reaching for my phone. And I need to make a lunch reservation for tomorrow. Harrison smiled. Now that's the fire I've been looking for. Show them what happens when you try to cage 2 generations of artists. I looked at my paintings, at my grandmother's journal, at the future suddenly opening up before me. No, I said. I'll show them what happens when the cage finally breaks. Stephanie's hadn't changed. Same white tablecloths, same soft jazz, same wealthy clientele pretending not to watch each other over their overpriced salads. I spotted Genesis immediately, her perfect blonde hair catching the sunlight as she typed on her phone. Well, look who's still in Boston, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Genesis jumped, nearly dropping her phone. Alina? I thought you were in Europe. Did Mom tell you that? I signaled the waiter. Martini? Extra dirty. She'll have another glass of her rosé. How did you know what I was drinking? Some things never change, I smiled. Like how you always meet your gossip sources here at noon on Tuesdays. Genesis shifted uncomfortably. I don't know what you're... Please, you've been dropping hints about my unfortunate choices all over town. At least have the courage to say it to my face. The waiter brought our drinks. Genesis took a large sip of hers. Aunt Reese is devastated, she finally said. You're breaking her heart. By following my passion? By refusing to be another empty socialite? By embarrassing the family? Do you know what people are saying? Actually, I don't. Tell me. Genesis leaned forward, lowering her voice. They're saying you had some kind of breakdown, that you're living in some dirty artist commune doing God knows what. I laughed, loud enough to make nearby diners turn. Is that the best you could come up with? It's not funny, Alina. The gala's coming up, and everyone's asking if you'll be there. Aunt Reese had to tell the board you're dealing with personal issues. Personal issues? I took a sip of my martini. Like finally being honest about who I am? Like throwing away everything your parents gave you for some hobby. Hobby? I pulled out my phone, showing her Harrison's latest email. Is that what you call being featured at the Gardner? Genesis's face went pale as she read. The Gardner? But that's where Mom's hosting the gala. Yeah, funny coincidence, isn't it? You can't, she whispered. It would destroy her. Like she tried to destroy me? I stood up, dropping money on the table. You know what the difference is between you and me, Genesis? I actually have talent, real talent, not just a trust fund and a good name. Wait, Genesis grabbed my arm. There's something you should know about the gala. What about it? Aunt Reese, she's announcing her nomination for the museum's board presidency that night. It's practically guaranteed, unless something embarrasses her. I smiled. Like her disowned daughter having an exhibition in the same museum? Please, Alina, she's worked so hard for this. So have I. I pulled my arm free, and unlike her, I earned every bit of it. You're just doing this for revenge. No, I said, gathering my coat. I'm doing this because I'm an artist. The revenge is just a bonus. I was halfway to the door when Genesis called out. They'll never forgive you for this. I turned back. Maybe. But I'll never forgive them for making me choose between their love and my truth. Outside, my phone buzzed. A text from Harrison. "How did lunch go?" "Better than expected," I replied. "Genesis just gave me exactly what I needed." Which is? The perfect timing for my exhibition's opening night. Back at the studio, I found Uncle Sullivan waiting, a mischievous glint in his eye. "Heard you had lunch with Genesis," he said. "How's our little informant?" "Terrified." I picked up my brush, facing my largest canvas yet. "She told me about Mom's board nomination." "Ah," he nodded. "The crown jewel in Reese's social climbing career." "Did you know?" "Why do you think I showed up now?" He grinned. "Sometimes the best revenge is just perfect timing." I started mixing colors, deep blues and violent purples. "This isn't just about revenge anymore, Sully. I found Grandma's last novel in her journal. The one about the woman who burned down her husband's social club?" "No," I smiled, making the first bold stroke across the canvas. "The one about her daughter, who grew up to be exactly what her father wanted, and exactly what her mother feared." Sullivan watched me paint in silence for a moment. "Your mother never read it, you know." "I know." I stepped back, studying the emerging image. "But she's about to see it, all of it, in living color. They'll try to stop you," he warned, "once they realize what's coming." "Let them try." I dipped my brush in red. Some stories need to be told, even if they burn everything down in the process. "And you're ready for that fire?" I thought of Genesis's face when she read Harrison's email, of my grandmother's hidden novels, of my mother's carefully constructed world of appearances. "I'm not just ready," I said, making another bold stroke. "I'm the one lighting the match." "It's done," I whispered, stepping back from the final piece. 3 days before the exhibition opening, and my hands were trembling from exhaustion and too much coffee, Harrison circled the massive canvas slowly, his footsteps echoing in the pre-dawn quiet of my studio. The painting towered over us, 12 feet of carefully controlled chaos. At its center, a woman in a golden dress stood in a shattered mirror, her reflection fracturing into hundreds of smaller images, each showing a different truth. "This is it," he said finally. "This is the one we'll unveil at the opening." My phone buzzed. Another frantic text from Genesis. "Please call me. Mom knows something's happening. She's making calls." "Let her call," Yolanda said, reading over my shoulder. "What can she do? The exhibition's already been announced." The studio door burst open, making us all jump. My mother stood there, perfect as always in her Chanel suit, looking wildly out of place among the paint-splattered walls. "So it's true," she said, her voice tight. "You're really doing this." "Mom!" My voice came out steadier than I felt. "You can't be here." "Can't be here?" She stepped inside, her heels clicking on the concrete floor. "I'm your mother. I have every right." "No," I cut her off. "You lost that right when you tried to buy my silence." She stopped, finally seeing the paintings around her. Her face went pale as she took in each image. The broken cage, the shattered mirrors, the words from my grandmother's journal woven through every canvas. "You can't show these," she whispered. "Do you have any idea what this will do?" "To your reputation?" I moved between her and the centerpiece. "Your precious board nomination?" "To our family." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "Whatever point you're trying to make." "This isn't about making a point." Harrison stepped forward. "This is about art. Real art, the kind that tells truth." "And who are you to judge what truth is?" Mom turned on him. "You have no idea what our family—" "He knows exactly what this family is," I interrupted, because I showed him, in every brushstroke, every color, every hidden message. "Hidden message?" Her eyes narrowed. "What are you talking about?" I picked up my grandmother's journal from my workbench. "Did you ever wonder why Grandma spent so much time in her study? What she was writing all those years?" "Don't!" Her voice shook. Don't you dare bring her into this. She brought herself into this 30 years ago. I opened the journal to the marked page. When she wrote about watching her daughter become everything she feared. Stop it. My Reese, I read aloud. So desperate to be what they want, she's forgotten who she is. My beautiful girl, trading her soul for social standing. I said stop. She grabbed for the journal, but I pulled it away. The exhibition opens in 3 days, I said. Every piece tells a story. Grandma's, mine, yours, about women who silence themselves to please others. I'm calling our lawyers. She reached for her phone. This is defamation. It's art, Harrison cut in. Protected speech. And considering the press already has the preview materials. Mom froze. What press? Boston Globe, Art News, Forbes. Harrison smiled. They're particularly interested in the family connection, the prodigal daughter's triumphant return, exposing the dark side of Boston's elite society. You wouldn't, she whispered. Watch me. She looked around the studio one last time, her eyes lingering on the centerpiece. For a moment, I saw something flicker across her face, recognition, maybe even understanding. Your father will never forgive this, she said quietly. I know. We'll be ruined. No, I stepped closer. You'll just finally be seen, the real you, not the perfect facade you've built. She turned to leave, then paused at the door. That woman in the painting, in the gold dress? Yes, she looks like me, at your age. She is you, Mom, the you that existed before you let them cage you. She didn't respond, just closed the door softly behind her. The studio fell silent. Well, Yolanda finally said. That was intense. It's not over, Harrison warned. She'll try something before the opening. Let her. I turned back to the centerpiece, touching the still wet paint gently. Some things need to be broken before they can be fixed. My phone buzzed again. Uncle Sullivan. Just heard Reese was at your studio. You okay? Better than okay, I typed back. The final piece is done. And? I looked at the painting, at the woman in the golden dress, at all the fractured truths finally coming to light. And it's beautiful, I replied. Terrifyingly beautiful. The Gardner Museum hummed with anticipation. Through the gallery windows, I watched Boston's elite arrive in their designer clothes and practiced smiles, air-kissing and exchanging pleasantries as if this were just another opening night. They have no idea what's coming, do they? Yolanda adjusted my black dress, a far cry from the paint-stained clothes I usually wore. 5 minutes until doors open, Harrison announced, appearing beside us. The press is already asking about the covered centerpiece. Let them ask. I touched the massive velvet drape hiding my final piece. Some surprises are worth waiting for. The gallery doors opened and the crowd flowed in like an expensive tide. I recognized faces from my old life, board members, family friends, social climbers who'd once smiled at me at country club brunches. Now they whispered behind their champagne glasses, pointing discreetly at my paintings. Darling, Uncle Sullivan's voice boomed across the room. He wrapped me in a bear hug, smelling of leather and good scotch. They're all here, every last one of them. Mom and Dad? Back corner, Reese is doing her best to pretend this isn't happening, but Bennett looks like he's about to burst a blood vessel. I glanced where he indicated. My parents stood rigid, barely touching their champagne. Mom wore her armor, a perfectly tailored Oscar de la Renta gown, while Dad's jaw clenched visibly, even from across the room. Ladies and gentlemen, Harrison's voice cut through the murmurs. If you'll gather round, we're about to begin. The crowd shifted, forming a loose semicircle around the covered centerpiece. I saw Genesis slip in late, her face pale as she took in the other paintings. Tonight, Harrison continued, we celebrate not just art, but truth. The kind of truth that often hides behind family names and social expectations. He gestured to me. Alina? My heels clicked against the marble floor as I stepped forward. The crowd's silence felt heavy, expectant. "These paintings tell a story," I said, my voice carrying in the hushed space. "Not just my story, but the story of every person who's ever been told to be less, to be quiet, to be proper." I met my mother's eyes across the room. "It's about the cages we build, the masks we wear, and what happens when we finally break free." I nodded to Harrison. 2 assistants stepped forward, gripping the velvet drape. "Mother," I said clearly, "this one's for you." The drape fell. Gasps echoed through the gallery. In the stunning silence that followed, I heard my mother's sharp intake of breath. The painting towered over everyone, 12 feet of carefully controlled chaos. The woman in the golden dress, my mother's younger self, stood among shattered mirrors, each fragment reflecting a different truth. A young girl writing poetry, a woman crying behind closed doors, a daughter becoming her father's perfect creation. And woven through it all, in delicate gold script, were my grandmother's words: "The greatest tragedy is not the breaking of a heart, but the silencing of a soul." "Oh my God," Genesis whispered loudly. "Those are Aunt Reese's journals." "No," my mother's voice cut through the silence. She stepped forward, her hands shaking. "Those are my mother's words, the ones I pretended not to hear, the ones I tried so hard to forget." The crowd parted as she approached the painting. Up close, the details were unmistakable: the exact shade of her favorite childhood dress, the diary she used to hide under her mattress, the dreams she packed away to become the perfect society wife. "You had no right," she whispered, but her voice lacked conviction. "I had every right," I replied softly. "Just like Grandma had every right to write her novels. Just like I have every right to paint my truth." Dad stepped forward, his face dark with rage. "This ends now. I'll buy every painting. Name your price." "They're not for sale," Harrison interjected smoothly. "In fact, they've already been acquired by the museum's permanent collection." The whispers grew louder. Mom swayed slightly, reaching for support. "Reese?" A board member approached cautiously. "Perhaps we should discuss the nomination." "No need," my mother said, her voice suddenly clear. She turned to face the crowd, her spine straightening. "I'm withdrawing my name." "Mom?" Genesis gasped. "It's time for some truth, isn't it?" Mom looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in months. "My daughter isn't the disappointment here. I am. I disappointed myself, my mother, and worst of all, I disappointed the artist my daughter became." She touched the painting gently, tracing one of the written lines. "The silencing of a soul," she murmured. Then, louder, "Well, no more silence. Not tonight." The gallery erupted in chaos, but all I could see was my mother's face, transformed by something that looked surprisingly like freedom. Uncle Sullivan appeared at my side, grinning. "Now that," he whispered, "is what I call a masterpiece." The aftermath of the exhibition opening felt like the eye of a hurricane. Reporters swarmed the gallery, cameras flashing, questions flying. Dad had stormed out, followed by most of his business associates. Genesis hovered uncertainly between groups, her social butterfly wings finally clipped. "Ms. Rice," a reporter thrust a microphone toward me. "Your exhibition seems to be a direct critique of Boston's elite society. Was that your intention?" Before I could answer, my mother stepped forward. "My daughter," she said clearly, "has done what I never had the courage to do. She told the truth." The reporters turned to her like sharks sensing blood. "Mrs. Rice, how do you respond to the personal nature of these paintings?" "Personal?" Mom laughed, a sound I hadn't heard in years. "Art should be personal. It should hurt. It should heal. My daughter's work does both." Harrison appeared at my side. "The Times is calling it a searing indictment of generational trauma disguised as social obligation." "Disguised?" Uncle Sullivan snorted, joining us. "Looks pretty damn obvious to me." A commotion near the entrance drew our attention. My father had returned, this time with a man in an expensive suit clutching a leather briefcase. "That's enough," Dad announced, his voice cutting through the chaos. "This exhibition is over. My lawyer has prepared an injunction." "On what grounds?" Harrison stepped forward, smiling pleasantly. "Defamation, invasion of privacy. Take your pick." "Everything here is either artistic interpretation or documented fact," Harrison replied. "The museum's lawyers have already reviewed." "I don't care about your lawyers." Dad's face reddened. "This is family business." "No," Mom's voice rang out. "This is art, and it's staying." Dad turned to her, shocked. "Reese, you can't be serious. After what she's done to us." "What she's done?" Mom walked to the centerpiece, gesturing at the fractured reflections. "Look at it, Bennett. Really look. This isn't just about Alina, it's about me, about my mother, about every woman in this family who was told to be less than she was." "Your mother?" Dad scoffed. "What does she have to do with everything?" Mom pulled a small book from her clutch, my grandmother's journal. "Did you know she published novels under a pen name? Did you know she won awards?" She opened the journal. "Did you know she wrote about me?" The gallery had gone silent, everyone watching this unexpected drama unfold. "I found her journals after she died," Mom continued, "but I was too afraid to read them, too afraid to see myself through her eyes." She looked at me. "Until now." "Mrs. Rice," another reporter called out, "are you saying you support your daughter's exhibition?" "Support it?" Mom smiled, a real smile that made her look years younger. "I'm proud of it, proud of her. For the first time in my life, I'm seeing the truth about our family, about myself, and yes, it hurts, but it's beautiful too." Dad's lawyer shifted uncomfortably. "Mr. Rice, if your wife isn't willing to support the injunction—" "To hell with the injunction," Dad snapped. "Reese, think about what you're doing. The board position is less important than my daughter." Mom turned to the crowd. "Yes, I'm withdrawing from the board nomination because it's time for new voices, new perspectives. It's time for truth." Genesis suddenly stepped forward. "Aunt Reese is right." She faced the reporters. "This family, we've all been living behind masks. Alina's just the first one brave enough to break hers." The reporters surged forward again, questions overlapping. Through the chaos, I felt a hand slip into mine. "Mom." "I'm sorry," she whispered, "for everything, for trying to make you smaller to fit our world." "Mom." "No, let me finish." She squeezed my hand. "Your grandmother would have loved these paintings. She would have loved the artist you've become." Dad stood alone now, his lawyer already retreating. He looked lost, a king watching his kingdom crumble. "Bennett," Mom called to him, "it's over. The perfect family, the perfect image. It's all over, and thank God for that." He left without a word, but this time no one followed. Harrison cleared his throat. "The Boston Globe wants an interview with both of you." Mom looked at me questioningly. "Together?" I nodded, feeling something shift between us, like a door opening or a cage breaking. "Together." As the reporters gathered around us, I caught Uncle Sullivan's eye. He raised his champagne glass in a silent toast, grinning like a proud conspirator. "So," the Globe reporter began, "tell us about the woman in the golden dress." Mom and I looked at each other, then at the painting that had started it all, the truth teller, the mirror breaker, the story we'd both needed to tell. "Well," we said in unison, and for the first time in years we both started laughing. Spring sunlight streamed through my studio windows as I added the final touches to my newest piece. The door creaked open and Mom stepped in, carrying 2 cups of coffee and a familiar leather-bound journal. "Still using Grandma's words?" she asked, setting down the cups. "They feel like mine now, too." I stepped back from the canvas. "What do you think?" The painting showed 2 women at a writing desk. One older, one younger. Their faces reflected in the same mirror. Unlike my previous work, this one felt lighter, more hopeful. She would have loved it, Mom said, touching the canvas gently. Both the painting and the gallery. We'd converted Dad's old downtown office building into an art gallery and writing space, renamed it the Storyteller's Studio. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. Have you heard from him? I asked, accepting the coffee. Bennett's in London, Mom shrugged. Apparently there's less scrutiny there, though Genesis tells me he's actually reading your interviews. And how is our favorite reformed socialite? Mom laughed. Genesis is thriving at art school. Who knew she had such talent for photography? Though she says documentary work is way harder than Instagram. The studio door burst open again as Yolanda rushed in, waving her phone. You're trending again. The Times piece about female artists breaking family traditions just dropped. Show me, Mom and I said together, then laughed at our synchronicity. As Yolanda pulled up the article, Harrison appeared in the doorway. Ladies, the writing workshop starts in 10 minutes. We've got a full house, including 3 society wives, Yolanda whispered dramatically. Apparently, your mother's writing group is becoming quite scandalous. Mom straightened her shoulders, a gesture I'd seen countless times at charity galas, but now it looked different, proud rather than proper. Well, scandal is better than silence, isn't it? Speaking of silence, Harrison said, Sullivan's downstairs with some interesting news. Uncle Sullivan bounded up the stairs moments later, his leather jacket now adorned with paint stains from helping around the studio. You'll never believe what I found in the old family storage unit. He pulled out a manuscript, yellowed with age. Your grandmother's last novel, the one she never published. Mom's hands shook as she took it. The Price of Proper, she read, by Elizabeth Grace. Her pen name, I said softly. There's a note inside, Sullivan pointed. Dated the week before she died. Mom opened it carefully, her voice catching as she read, To my Reese, and to her daughter, and to every daughter who follows, may you find the courage to tell your stories, paint your truths, and break whatever cages they build around you. The world needs your voice more than it needs your silence. The studio fell quiet, broken only by the sounds of aspiring artists and writers gathering downstairs. Well, Harrison said, checking his watch, shall we tell them they're about to be part of literary history? Wait, I said, turning to Mum. Read it to them. Grandma's novel. Start today. Me? Mum clutched the manuscript. But I'm not. You're exactly who should read it. I took her hand. The daughter who found her voice again. She looked at the manuscript, then at my painting of the 2 women at the desk. On one condition. Name it. You paint while I read. Let them see both forms of storytelling. Deal. As we headed downstairs, Yolanda nudged me. Look at us, running an arts collective in your father's old temple of capitalism. If that's not poetic justice... The workshop space was packed. Women of all ages looked up expectantly, notebooks and laptops open, some with paintbrushes already in hand. Ladies, Mom said, stepping to the front, today we're going to talk about legacy, not the kind that's handed down in trust funds or social standings, but the kind that flows through ink and paint and courage. She held up the manuscript. This is my mother's story, and my daughter's story, but most importantly, it could be your story too. I set up my easel beside her, mixing colors that felt like freedom. Chapter 1, Mom began reading, her voice strong and clear. The day I decided to disappoint my family was the day I finally began to live. As she read, I painted, and around us, dozens of women began to write and draw, each finding their own way to break their silence. Through the windows, I could see the Boston skyline, the same view Dad once used to survey his domain. But now it looked different. Now it looked like possibility. Uncle Sullivan leaned against the wall, grinning. Now this, he said softly, this is what revolution looks like. I smiled, adding a bright streak of gold to my canvas. No, I replied. This is what freedom looks like. And in that moment, surrounded by art and truth and broken cages, we were all exactly where we needed to be.